Chapter 845. It took Han Fei 6 hours to cultivate, craft the feather suit of wind, and eat spiritual fruits to recover his lost essence and blood. With a thought, Han Fei had already appeared in the desolation graveyard. It was just as Han Fei expected. The wind sky wings that chased him earlier were gone. However, there were still 2 wind sky wings that were very close to him. Obviously, the 2 wind sky wings had spotted Han Fei the moment he showed up. However, Han Fei simply waved the fish skin in his hand and enshrouded himself in a maze. At the same time, he cast a concealment array and a stealth array on himself. Voila! The void chains enshrouded the whole area. The 2 wind sky wings weren't scared of Han Fei, they were just habitually timid. Seeing that they were tied up, they tried to run away. Immediately, the wind blades slashed at the void chains. Han Fei dared not let them slash at the void chains. The 9-tailed mantis shrimp was only level 41. The gap between him and those creatures was too huge. Even the legendary quality couldn't make up for the gap in levels. However, the time was enough. He extended the void lines and caught the wing of one of the wind sky wings. The wind sky wing hero soul paused when it was caught by one of the void lines, which caused it to be caught by the remaining 8 void lines. Immediately, Han Fei sensed resistance. However, in terms of soul power, Han Fei was as good as them. Therefore, the wind sky wing struggled and only flew 10 kilometers away before it was completely controlled by Han Fei. Hey, that's more like it. You should look like you've improved when you're stronger. Controlling the wind sky wing hero soul to fly back, Han Fei climbed on it again. This time, the feather suit of wind on his body had not only turned from a semi-divine weapon into a real divine weapon, but it also had the ability to resist the wind. It was no longer emitting a sizzling sound. Han Fei waved his hand and collected all the bones nearby into Forge the Universe. Then he controlled the wind sky wing to swim deeper. Han Fei didn't pick up a lot of bones immediately because it wasn't the right time to do that. If more and more wind sky wing hero souls were alarmed, would he be able to find the god's sealing pearl? Therefore, when he was in a hurry, he didn't panic. This time, the effect was much better than the previous one. First of all, the wind sky wing that Han Fei controlled had a wingspan of 10 meters. It was a level 55 heroic soul. Secondly, since he was silent, the wind sky wings weren't curious anymore. After flying for about 800 kilometers, Han Fei felt that he was in good condition. Apart from the coldness, he also saw many wind sky wing hero souls whose wingspans were 12 meters. Han Fei was flying. All of a sudden, he sensed danger, only to see that a wind sky wing hero soul with a wingspan of 13 meters was flying close. Exposed? No, it's not coming for me, but for the wind sky wing below me. Han Fei immediately controlled the wind sky wings to fly to an area where there were no wind sky wing hero souls. Sensing that the gale sky wing was chasing after him, Han Fei calmly told the wind sky wing to not resist. Chilla. When the gale sky wing's wind blades were about to swallow the wind sky wing that he controlled, the void lines hung on the gale sky wing from 20 meters away. After that, the powerful wind sky wing hero soul let out a cry and flew away. Han Fei, on the other hand, didn't move at all. It's fine. Get out of the range of my void lines first. You'll be lucky if you can get out. 30 seconds later, Han Fei controlled the wind sky wing to return and jumped on it. Han Fei secretly had mixed feelings. He didn't know when he was bold enough to fight a level 58 wind sky wing hero soul. The breakthrough had truly given him confidence. Han Fei roughly estimated that he must have been 7,000 kilometers away since he entered the desolation graveyard. He was 2,000 kilometers away from the desolation graveyard. However, where was the wind sky wing big shot that they talked about? The big shot with the wind god pearl on its head. Come out. If you go any further, I won't be able to defeat you. After flying for another 500 kilometers, Han Fei found that a few wind sky wings with wingspans of 13 or even 14 meters were fighting each other. As a sneak, Han Fei chose to skim from the sky. However, a moment later, he found that many wind sky wings were fighting. Oh my god, they're all big shots. The big shots can't see me. The big shots can't see me. After flying for another 300 kilometers stealthily, Han Fei was finally seen by the big shots. A powerful wind sky wing lunged at Han Fei. Han Fei glanced at it, only to find that it was almost level 60 with a wingspan of 15 meters. He wanted to change for a stronger one, but he couldn't stand two of them at the same time. Damn it. Just one was enough. Why would there be two? Another chase began in an instant. Then, streaks of light chased after him. Han Fei turned on the fighter mode again. Do I have to hide in Forge the Universe again? No. Han Fei quickly took out a peppermint and put it in his mouth. His head was immediately clear. There was no time. This place was no longer the same place as before. The wind sky wings here wouldn't give him a chance to hide in Forge the Universe. Immediately, Han Fei split off two void lines and cast them at the two wind sky wing hero souls that were closest to him. As if sensing the danger, the two wind sky wings were dodging as fast as shadows. Fortunately, it bought Han Fei an opportunity. However, he vaguely sensed that the wind sky wing below him seemed to be resisting too. Resist? Fly. Han Fei thought of something. It seemed that 3 void lines weren't enough. He had to refine a few more dragon veins. After chasing for about 100 kilometers, Han Fei suddenly found that the wind sky wing hero souls behind him slowed down. After only 1 minute, the wind sky wings behind him stopped chasing. You scared me to death. Shoot. Why aren't there any wind sky wing hero souls here? Han Fei's eyelids cramped. There was only one possibility for such a situation to occur. He had entered the sphere of influence of an even stronger big shot. Han Fei had no time to think. He couldn't lose the wind sky wing below him. Chances were that he would have to rely on it to escape. However, Han Fei was afraid that he couldn't defeat the big shot that he was about to meet. Immediately, he extracted his remaining 6 dragon veins and refined them on the spot. Although Han Fei could even divide a void line into 10 strands, the void line was too small. But that had to take into consideration the endurance of each one. Even though he had become a hidden fisher, his soul was still too strong, and refining the dragon veins would consume his soul. If he didn't have to pay any price, he would have refined the dragon veins a long time ago. But at this moment, Han Fei couldn't care less. 3 or 4 void lines wouldn't be enough. Controlling the wind sky wing hero souls, Han Fei calmed down and began to refine them. When Han Fei was about to refine the third one, he saw 2 streaks of light darting at him. Shoot. He quickly controlled the wind sky wing to dodge them. When Han Fei raised his head again, he discovered, to his horror, that a wind sky wing hero soul with a wingspan of 18 meters was swooping at him. The wind sky wing hero soul didn't have white wings anymore, but wings that looked like jade. They were transparent and attractive. There was a green pearl at the center of the wind sky wing hero soul's head. A wind god pearl? Han Fei shivered all over, and a weird desolation gale blew down. At this moment, Han Fei heard sizzling noises again. Han Fei was rather horrified. Could a low-quality divine weapon resist the attack of a level 63 big shot? He didn't know. However, judging from the current situation, he had obviously been exposed. The big shot's target was him, not the wind sky wing below him. Han Fei took a deep breath. Fuck you. Let's go. I'm going to fuck you up. At this moment, he activated the Overlord's technique. Attached to Little Fatty, Han Fei controlled the wind sky wing crazily and lunged at the enormous wind sky wing. Hula. The big boss flapped its wings and shot out wind blades one after another. Han Fei tensed up and quickly dodged, narrowing the distance between him and the big shot. A lot of thoughts popped up in Han Fei's head. As long as you're close, as long as you're controlled by my void lines, I'll fight you to the end. In the next second, when the wind blades formed a net, Han Fei shrieked and launched a fist mark of the Chow family. Almost at the same time, Han Fei opened the seal of the soul attraction pill with his left hand. In an instant, the fragrance of pills spread in the raging wind. Come on. Do you want it? If you do, come at me. Chilla. The fist mark of the Chow family was cut into pieces, but the wind blades didn't stop. After all, The fist mark of the Chow family was only equal to the attack of a peak-level hidden fisher. The big shot with a wingspan of 18 meters, on the other hand, was even more powerful than a hidden fisher. Gotcha! Another fist imprint of the Chow family was crushed and blasted out. Han Fei hurriedly controlled the 15 void lines to hook the big boss on the opposite side. However, how fast was the Wind Sky Wing hero soul at the sea spirit level? The big shot didn't fall for it at all. Chilla! Han Fei suddenly leaped away. 2 of the Wind Sky Wings below him had been cut into countless pieces and disappeared. Han Fei waved his hand and threw out a fish skin map. It was so blinding that nobody within 1,000 meters could open their eyes. Mujia, I'm sorry. I can always trade the essence of wind for the soul attraction pill later. I'll use the soul attraction pill. At that moment, Han Fei hooked the soul attraction pill with a void line and threw it into the sky. First update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 846. At the moment when he threw out the soul attraction pill, he also threw out a fist mark of the Chow family. He had to use it when it was time to save his life. As long as he could catch the big guy up there, not just the 3 fist marks of the Chow family, he could even use the ones from the Guan family and the Mu family. In the wind, Han Fei was attached to Little Gold. I can fly too. Although I can't fly as steadily as you in this environment, I have legendary wings after all. However, for the sake of the show, Han Fei turned around and ran, stretching the void lines. Hurry up and eat. Suddenly Han Fei felt that his soul shivered, and the void lines caught him. Han Fei was overjoyed. In the blink of an eye, he turned around and flew away. The void lines that caught the Wind Sky Wing big shot split into 3, and the other void lines followed them like maggots on a bone. However, the Wind Sky Wing big shot seemed to have sensed great danger. It rose and blinked 100 meters away, trying to escape. Damn it, there's a flash skill? But do you think that's enough? The moment the Wind Sky Wing big shot flew away, Han Fei stopped and took out a longbow. At that moment, all the spiritual energy in Han Fei's body was absorbed, and 25,600 points of spiritual energy were gathered on the arrow. The 8th arrow of the War Soul art burst out at this moment. Han Fei, on the other hand, managed to resist the arrow without breaking his arm. This fully showed how correct his choice to become a hidden fisher was this time. If it were before, his entire arm would have been torn apart and bleeding. The War Soul art was a lock-on technique. However, lock-on techniques didn't necessarily work in the Gales. After all, the enemy was a level 63 heroic soul. If it weren't caught by the void lines, it would have been easy for it to shatter Han Fei's arrow. However, the Wind Sky Wing big shot was caught by the void lines, and it had 2 choices. One was to pause for a moment and break Han Fei's arrow. The other was to simply run away and ignore the arrow. However, the battle soul cultivation technique meant that each arrow was stronger than the previous one, especially the last few arrows, which injured the spiritual soul. The Wind Sky Wing hero soul, on the other hand, was a soul in the first place. Therefore, if he were to take this arrow head-on, the lethality would still be great. Sure enough, just as Han Fei expected, the guy paused for a moment and flapped his wings wildly. 4 wind blades swept toward the spiritual energy arrows. Han Fei grinned. It's done. At this moment, the 2nd void line caught the Wind Sky Wing hero soul again. The 3rd one followed closely behind and hit the target again. With a telepathic thought, the void lines split into 9 and hooked onto the Wind Sky Wing's head, for wings, tail, neck, back. For a moment, Han Fei felt stinging pain in his head. That was the other party's strong resistance. While flying to the Wind Sky Wing, Han Fei competed for control with the Wind Sky Wing. As expected, 3 complete void lines were still unable to control this big shot. At that moment, Han Fei soared into the sky and chased after it in the raging wind. If he was given another chance to shoot, or if he was given a chance to catch it with a 4th void line, he felt that he could defeat this big guy. 1 fish and 1 man, 1 in front and 1 behind, 1 above and 1 below, began a chase, swift as light and shadow. Han Fei tried to maintain the fastest speed, hoping that the bastard couldn't escape from him within 300 kilometers. At this moment, the Wind Sky Wing big shot was almost 100 kilometers away from him. Han Fei cursed aloud. He really needed to improve his damn speed. You want to run away when you're hooked? Soul-splitting technique. Han Fei roared. Outside the Wind Sky Canyon, Chao Qiu, Guan Qingyan, and Mu Jia were waiting hundreds of kilometers away. Holding her chin, Mu Jia asked, "How big do you think Han Fei can catch? Could it be a 14-meter one or a 15-meter one?" Guan Qingyan said casually, "It's hard to say. With Brother Han's extraordinary abilities, it's possible that he can tame a 15-meter Wind Sky Wing." Chao Qiu smacked his lips and said, "Why can't it be the Wind God Pearl? Han Fei was a very strange person. No place he's been to is good." Mu Jia curled her lips. Wind God Pearl. It was said that it only appeared in the depths of the Desolation Graveyard. Moreover, there were very few of them. Perhaps there were only a few in the entire Wind Sky Canyon. The last person who obtained the Wind God Pearl was over 60 years ago. Suddenly, Mu Jia suddenly grabbed Chao Qiu and said, "Look, Sister Mo." Chao Qiu snorted. What's there to be surprised about? She couldn't have entered the Desolation Graveyard after being taught a lesson by Han Fei. Besides, I'm not bragging, but what can she do even if she enters the Desolation Graveyard? Can she defeat so many Wind Sky Wing hero souls? Mo Fian saw Chao Qiu and the others from a distance and asked via voice transmission, "Where is Han Fei?" Chao Qiu snorted. "I don't know. Who knows? Maybe he's trying to snatch the Wind God Pearl." Mo Fian sneered disdainfully. "He dares to rob the Wind God Pearl? I'll wait for him here. I'll settle the score with him." "Who do you want to settle the score with?" Right when Chao Qiu and Mu Jia were about to refute, a soft but firm voice echoed in everybody's head. He saw a woman in a white dress walking on the wind in the void. Her fluttering long hair and her fluttering clothes blossomed in the wind, making her look like a fairy who had just descended from the sky. Mu Jia asked in surprise, "Without wings, is she a law enforcer or an explorer?" Chua? Guan Qingyan's face was cold. "It's her? Jiuyin Ling has become a law enforcer?" Chao Qiu was surprised for a long time too. Then he waved his hand. Little nine, little nine." Jiuyin Ling nodded at Chao Qiu gently and then looked at Mo Fian casually. "What do you want to settle with Han Fei for?" Mo Fian's pupils constricted. "You've become a law enforcer?" Mo Fian and the rest of them were shocked. She knew that Jiuyin Ling's cultivation was fast, but how could it be so fast? How old was she? She was already a law enforcer? But Mo Fian still said stubbornly, "That's between me and Han Fei. What does it have to do with you?" Jiuyin Ling stepped down and finally stood on the wave. Her face was still gentle and tranquil as she said softly, "His business is my business." Clang. Huh? What do you mean? Chao Qiu and the other two widened their eyes and mouths. What did she mean? Mu Jia screamed, "Little Jiu, don't tell me you like Han Fei?" The corners of Guan Qingyan's mouth were also trembling. How absurd. Chao Qiu sat down on the boat. My God, my sea god. Little nine, did you choose Han Fei for your comfort technique? Mo Fian was also shocked. She opened her mouth but couldn't say anything. She couldn't imagine how Han Fei and Jiuyin Ling, who belonged to two different worlds, got together. According to Jiuyin Ling's personality, the last thing she would choose was Han Fei. How could this be? Jiuyin Ling said gently, "He is very special. I became a law enforcer because of him." They all took a deep breath, feeling that their brains were about to turn to mush. Far away, several 8-star experts flew close and looked at Jiuyin Ling in surprise. "You've become a law enforcer?" Someone laughed aloud. "As expected of a once-in-a-thousand-year heavenly talent. You've become a law enforcer so quickly. Chances are that you can become an explorer before you're 20. Someone nodded. "Even if you can't become a law enforcer before you're 20, you'll become a law enforcer at 25. Jiuyin Ling smiled and said, "You flatter me, seniors. Thank you for your compliment." Someone shook his head with a smile. What do you mean by that? I've never seen anyone make breakthroughs so fast. It's so fast that it's astounding. While they were laughing and discussing, all of a sudden, 2 streaks of light soared into space from the distant sky. They were real lights. One was green, and the other was gold and red. Someone asked in surprise, "What's that?" Someone shook his head. "It's too far away for me to see clearly. Has a powerful wind sky wing been born?" Someone laughed and scolded, "Nonsense. The two are chasing each other. They're obviously hunting each other." Mujur asked in surprise, "What's that? That light is so beautiful." Chao Chio snorted. "Anyway, we already have wings. It's none of our business. The battle is so fierce. It must be dangerous." Everybody looked up at the sky. The 2 streaks of light were traveling in the violent vortex of Desolation Gale and couldn't be seen clearly. Suddenly, a streak of spiritual energy darted out. Someone seemed to be shouting, but the wind was roaring and they couldn't hear it at all. They vaguely heard the word, "grandson." Han Fei finally shot out the second arrow. He summoned Little White and Little Black and tossed Little White into Forge the Universe. In such a way, Little Black would survive whether he died or not. Boosted by the Desolation Gale, the 2 of them were extremely fast. They couldn't be described as flying at all. They were like shadows of light. When Han Fei forcibly gained control of the Wind Sky Wing's body, he finally had a chance to bite this bastard. It was exactly because of this opportunity that Han Fei had the chance to shoot out the second arrow. "Hey, grandson, you've eaten my 4th hook." When the 4th void line caught the Wind Sky Wing, Han Fei immediately gained the upper hand. During the rush, Han Fei had already stuffed the 26th spiritual fruit into his mouth. If it weren't for his energy, he wouldn't have been able to catch up to this point. "Grandson, get out of the Desolation Gale." Han Fei had gone through a lot of trouble to control the Wind Sky Wing hero soul to the edge of the Desolation Gale. As long as it was out of the Desolation Gale, it wouldn't be so fast, and he would have a chance. Bam, bam. 2 figures darted out of the Desolation Gale one after the other. Han Fei was overjoyed after he got out of the Desolation Gale. The 5th void line was finally caught. Immediately, the 5 void lines turned into 15 lines and latched onto the Wind Sky Wing. As if knowing that it was in great danger, the Wind Sky Wing seized its last chance and lunged at Han Fei. In the blink of an eye, dozens of wind blades and violent Desolation Gale were spurted at Han Fei. "Gotcha! Gotcha!" A sledgehammer appeared in the void. Clang! Clang! Down below, Guan Qingyan rose quickly. "That's..." Muj already shrieked. "It's Han Fei, that liar. He's using the Guan family's hammer." Mo Fian shivered. "Han Fei? How is it possible?" Juyin Ling opened her mouth in surprise. Han Fei? Second update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 847. When Han Fei broke through the Desolation Gale, the people who had been sitting cross-legged at the bottom of the sea saw it too and raised their heads in shock. Someone exclaimed, "What's that?" Someone asked in confusion, "It seems to be a Wind Sky Wing." "Oh my God, isn't the Wind Sky Wing too huge? Its wingspan is 18 meters. Someone rose and pointed at the sky. "Look, there seems to be a Wind Sky Wing chasing it. However, why are the Wind Sky Wings behind it golden, and their wingspans are only 6 meters? Someone cursed, "Are you blind? That's not a Wind Sky Wing at all. It's a human being." The group of people cried out in alarm. This news really stimulated their brain nerves. Immediately, someone roared, "Someone is hunting the Wind Sky Wing King. Let's go and take a look." "I'm coming too. I'm coming too." Han Fei was approaching the Wind Sky Wing quickly. He cast out the void lines and hooked the dragon sting rod. It was because the Wind Sky Wing's soul had been controlled and was merely struggling. Therefore, its speed plummeted at this moment, which gave Han Fei a chance to catch it. Up in the sky, 2 giant hammer phantoms hammered down, creating vibrating golden ripples in the air, barely blocking the dozens of wind blades. Han Fei finally turned around and landed on the Wind Sky Wing that was coming at him. At that moment, information popped up in his eyes. Name Wind Sky Wing Soul King. Introduction. A rare king of immortal hero souls in the domain of wind. It can't return when it was alive and dies by itself. It lives and dies for the wind. Because it doesn't allow other creatures to destroy its resting place, it turns into a soul. The Wind Sky Wing hero souls retain part of their will when they were alive. They are timid, curious, fond of flying, and fond of bullying creatures that are weaker than them. When their four wings are opened, they can raise wind blades and spew out desolation gale. Level 63. Quality: Undead spiritual energy greater than 50,002 points. Collectible: Undead aura. Wind God Pearl, unabsorbable. Note: the Wind God Pearl must be taken within 100 seconds after it is taken off. Remark 2. This Wind God Pearl is like an illusion and looks like colored glass. Han Fei took a deep breath. King-level creatures were truly tricky to deal with. However, the Wind God Pearl was about to fall into his hands. In a few hundred breaths' time, he would be able to subdue it. At this moment, Han Fei felt lucky that the Wind Sky Wings were timid creatures. Even though he had become a Soul King, he was still timid. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had the chance to subdue a level 63 undead creature. In a sense, this was a creature at the level of a law enforcer. Suddenly, Han Fei glanced down. Many people were rising into the air, and many were floating on the sea. Chao Chio and the others haven't left yet? Is Mo Fian still there? Just when Han Fei felt that he couldn't take off the Wind God Pearl here, he glanced out of the corner of his eye and saw someone standing on the surface of the sea. Why is Juin Ling here too? However, he couldn't care less now. The Wind Sky Wing Soul King was struggling. Han Fei dashed around in the sky. One moment, he broke through the clouds, the next moment, he dove into the sea, and the next moment, he went straight down, and the next moment, he soared up. That feeling was so much better than flying a fighter jet. Han Fei was bleeding from his facial orifices, which were the wounds he suffered when he fought for control with the Wind Sky Wing. However, the minor wounds weren't enough to hurt Han Fei. Victory was already in sight. What was the big deal about a minor wound? Grandson, calm down. Do you believe that Grandpa will seal your spirit? Han Fei suddenly thought of something. That's right. Even if he took off the Wind God Pearl, wouldn't the Wind Sky Wing Soul King still be the king of the Wind Sky Wings without wings? Could he use it to seal a spirit? Finally, was the Wind Sky Wings consciousness blurred? At this moment, it suddenly lowered its head and dove into the sea at an unbelievable speed. Shoot! Are you trying to kill me? Bam! The light and shadow crashed into the sea, raising a surging tide. Han Fei felt that his internal organs were rolling. The moment it entered the sea, Han Fei felt that he had almost gained control of the Wind Sky Wing. Right when Han Fei was about to control the Wind Sky Wing to escape into the wind, he suddenly heard a voice transmission. You absorb it here. I'll protect you. Han Fei scanned with his senses, only to find that Juin Ling was already within 50 kilometers of him at some point. He thought for a moment and realized that he had wasted some time. He was told that the sooner he swallowed the Wind Pearl after he became a hidden fisher, the better. It would take him some time to escape into the wind and find a place where nobody was around. Now that he had a law enforcer to protect him, what was there to worry about? He might as well do it now. Han Fei grabbed the Wind God Pearl at the center of the Wind Sky Wing's eyebrows and stuffed it into his mouth without any hesitation. The moment it touched the Wind God Pearl, the Wind Sky Wing Soul King dispersed and disappeared. It was a pity that Han Fei intended to store it in the demon purification pot. After the Wind God Pearl entered his body, Han Fei felt that an intense wind was rising inside his body. The violent power seemed to be tearing his flesh apart. However, Han Fei's physique was unparalleled. Especially after Han Fei broke through to become a hidden fisher, he had become stronger. Therefore, he held back his twisted face and waited for the Wind God Pearl to be digested. At that moment, Han Fei stood proudly in the seawater, and Little Gold and Little Fatty returned to his body. Something seemed to be trying to crawl out of his back. The fiery pain was trying to grow from his back. Chilla! Han Fei felt that his skin was torn apart, and something was growing quickly, as if it were part of his body. Many people gathered around Han Fei. It was the wind god pearl. How could they not come when they saw someone absorb the wind god pearl with their own eyes? However, Zhou Ling said casually, nobody is allowed to be within 50 kilometers of him. Chao Qiu said anxiously, Xiao Jiao, our perception range isn't that large. Mu Jia? Nodded quickly. Jiao, let me go. I want to see if the liar absorbed the wind god pearl or not. However, seeing Chao Qiu and Mu Jia are trying to sneak forward, Zhou Ling pointed her finger. Seal. The two of them paused and looked back at Zhou Ling bitterly. Zhou Ling said casually, it's the wind god pearl. With that, Zhou Ling pointed at an invisible water vein underwater and shattered it. Then, she glanced at Mo Fian and said, there won't be a next time. Mo Fian's face turned ugly. She snorted and chose to leave. At this moment, she also realized that Zhou Ling had really taken a fancy to this damn Han Fei. Now, as long as it wasn't a law enforcer, no one could interfere with Han Fei's absorption of the wind god pearl. Why didn't she leave? Was she waiting for Han Fei to finish absorbing the wind god pearl and then come for her? Damn it, Han Fei. You bastard, I'll slap you to death sooner or later. Mo Fian left. The others were restrained by Zhou Ling and could only wait for Han Fei to come out of the seawater. Among the people present, there were only 2 law enforcers like Zhou Ling and 2 8-star cultivators with strong mental power. These 8-star cultivators were peak-level hidden fishers, but they were just patrollers here. They could perceive the scene of Han Fei's breakthrough. At this moment, a pair of white wings stretched out from Han Fei's back. It was a pair of illusory, glass-like wings that were faintly discernible in the air. At this moment, this pair of wings was slowly extending. Moreover, this pair of glass wings seemed to be breathing like a human, flickering, which was very strange. A faint smile appeared on Zhou Ling's face. Looking at the wings that were getting bigger and bigger, she couldn't help but exclaim in her heart, it turns out that he's so powerful. The expressions of the others also changed. A law enforcer exclaimed, it's really amazing. The characteristics of this wind god pearl are very special. Another law enforcer nodded. Yes, I remember that the last wind god pearl was a feather of fire, right? It contained the power of wind and fire, but I wonder what the characteristics of this wind god pearl are? The eyes of the 2 8-star cultivators were full of envy. Those who could get the wind god pearl were all heavenly talents since ancient times. They were all heavenly talents among heavenly talents, and they had to be blessed with opportunities and luck. Obviously, Han Fei was such a person. One of them still remembered that he told Han Fei about the rules of the Wind Sky Canyon. He didn't expect to meet him again so soon. He didn't expect that Han Fei would be able to get the wind god pearl. Outside, the group of people was restless and impatient. Mu Jia had already run to Zhou Ling. Xiao Jiao, what is it? What is it? Is it the feather of wind and fire? Zhou Ling shook her head slightly. No, I don't know it. Mu Jia asked eagerly, then what is it? Bam. Just when Mu Jia was asking, the surface of the water suddenly exploded, and waves splashed, and the huge wings that were as clear as glass broke out of the water. They were followed by more than 10 shadows, which looked a bit like Xia Xiaochan's shadow follower. As Han Fei stood still, the dozens of shadows disappeared into Han Fei's body one after another. Wow! Mu Jia clasped her hands in front of her chest, her eyes full of stars. What beautiful wings! Chao Qiu also exclaimed, oh my god! It's really 18 meters. Han Fei, how did you do it? Someone exclaimed, what wings are those? They're not feather of wind and fire. Someone was shocked. Son of a bitch, they're too beautiful. A law enforcer said casually, don't be surprised, everyone. The wind god pearl from more than 60 years ago was feather of wind and fire. It doesn't mean that all the wind god pearls are feather of wind and fire. For example, the wind god pearl from 100 years ago was the cloud water divine wings. The law enforcer said to Han Fei, right? What's the name of your wings? What are their features? You can show it to everyone, and you can also motivate everyone here. Han Fei was stunned. I don't know. The man laughed and said, that's simple. It's part of your body now. You just need to feel it carefully, and you'll know its features. Han Fei glanced at the wings, and information popped up in his eyes. Name Phantom Glass Wings. Introduction. This is one of the special features of the Wind God Pearl. It's acquired from a Wind Sky Wing Soul King. It can be improved as your level increases. It can double your speed and control the agility of the wind. As it moved, it was like a shadow following the body, dreamy and illusory, possessing the power to pierce through space. Combat Technique 1. Void Phantom. You can travel through the void within 100 meters without any limit and leave 9 shadows at the same time. Combat Technique 2. Agility of Wind. You can increase your speed by 3 times as long as your spiritual energy is not exhausted. Combat Technique 3. Wind Blade. You can slash out 2 gusts of desolation gales and absorb the wind power later. Note, the power of the Phantom Glass Wings will grow with the growth of the owner until he becomes an explorer. The third chapter, asking for votes. The wings are here. Asking for monthly votes. Boss. Ouch. End of this chapter. Chapter 848. Han Fei was dumbfounded when he saw the information. Damn it. Can wings be so powerful? Each and every one of them had a pair of wings that carried a battle technique. Furthermore, each and every one of them looked extremely powerful. Goodoo! Han Fei swallowed, and with a thought, he appeared 100 meters away. He didn't know what he did at that moment. With a thought, Han Fei went over. God knew how he came over. When Han Fei looked back, he found that there was still a copy of himself in the place where he was just now. Han Fei felt that he could control the blurred shadow. However, he didn't do that. He simply let others see it as a blurred shadow. Hula! As he spread his wings, the transparent green shadow flapped. With a swoosh, he soared into the sky. It's almost as fast as Little Gold? Han Fei discovered this in an instant. Ever since he had Little Gold, he had flown more than once or twice. Although he didn't break out his fastest speed, he estimated that he was only as fast as Little Gold if he didn't use the agility of wind and fully activated the Phantom Glass Wings. However, once he used the agility of wind, his top speed was about 3 times faster than Little Gold's. However, it did make sense. This was a level 63 Wind Sky Wing, and Little Gold was only level 41. If Little Gold could also grow to level 63, the Phantom Glass Wings wouldn't be as fast as it was. However, if Little Gold grew to level 63, it wouldn't be easy. After all, Han Fei had seen how difficult it was to raise a legendary creature, but he had to have enough spirit awakening fluid to raise it. Han Fei tried to see if he could share it with Little Gold, only to find that he could only use one of the 2 wings, which made Han Fei feel regretful. As for the wind blades, he flapped his wings. 2 wind blades visible to the naked eye slashed out, emitting a misty azure light. Shwa! Shwa! The moment the wind blades were launched, Han Fei flashed away twice in a row and blocked the 2 wind blades, leaving 2 blurred shadows in midair. Boom! 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 2 consecutive golden fist prints smashed the 2 wind blades into smithereens. However, he did not manage to block it completely. There was still a sliver of his strength left. However, Han Fei felt that he could easily resist that power with his body. Phew! He wasn't ridiculously strong. However, this wind blade is not weak. It should become stronger as I grow. But in any case, Han Fei was satisfied. He couldn't expect all of his combat skills to be as powerful as the invincible fist seal. To be able to withstand 2 punches, it was already quite impressive. On the surface of the sea, cries of alarm could be heard. With a thought, the shadows in the sky disappeared. It was enough for him to know the secret of the 9 afterimages. Agility of the wind had to be kept a secret. As for the wind blades, it didn't matter. With such a powerful pair of wings, if it didn't have any special abilities, how could it be called a wind god pearl? Below, someone exclaimed, "Flash! Is that an afterimage or the main body?" Someone gulped and said, "Of course it's an afterimage." However, the afterimage was too realistic, as if it was real. Someone sighed and said, "What a fast speed." If I can also get a wind god pearl, that would be great. Someone laughed and scolded, You? A wind god pearl? Just take a shower and sleep. Mu Jia-er's eyes glittered. She jumped over and greeted Han Fei. Han Fei, come here. Let me see your wings. Han Fei landed on the surface of the sea and looked at Zhou Ling. Then he looked at Mu Jia. Well, your soul attraction pill was used as bait by me. But don't panic. What do you want? I'll make it up to you later. Han Fei didn't know the function of the soul attraction pill, but it couldn't be ordinary since it could attract a wind sky wing soul king. Although he often robbed other people, this time he was borrowing it. Now that he had used the soul attraction pill, he was naturally embarrassed. Mu Jia was briefly stunned. Then she jumped over unconcernedly. It's fine, it's fine. Can I touch your wings? Han Fei was about to speak when he saw a figure much faster than Mu Jia and appeared next to Han Fei with a swoosh. No! Zhou Ling answered for Han Fei. Moreover, there was still a slight smile on his face, and his face was a little flushed and nervous. Han Fei? Mu Jia? Everyone? Han Fei thought to himself, the wings are my wings, aren't they? Zhou Ling glanced at Han Fei. I'm jealous. Han Fei? Everyone? Dumbfounded, Han Fei said in a hurry, Wait, Jiao. Little Jiao, why are you jealous? Zhou Ling pursed her lips and didn't say anything. It was quite weird in Han Fei's eyes. Then, it was even weirder in other people's eyes. She looked at Zhou Ling and then at Han Fei. Dumbfounded too, Mu Jia pouted and said, I'll just touch it. Zhou Ling looked at Han Fei, and Han Fei said gloomily, Go ahead. This time, Zhou Ling didn't object. It was useless to object anyway. With a thought from Han Fei, the wings grew to a wingspan of about 6 meters. Mu Jia touched them curiously and exclaimed, It's cold. It's so cold. It's so strange. It seems that some parts don't exist at all. I can only touch the visible parts when I flash out. Guan Qingyan also reached out and touched it. It's really amazing. Then Chao Qiu shouted, I want it too. I don't like my wings now. Can I still change them? A law enforcer smiled and said, What do you think this is? Do you think we can change them just because you say so? Zhou Ling suddenly said, Then I'll touch them too. Han Fei's eyelids twitched, but he didn't refuse in the end. However, he immediately said, There are other people I don't know. Don't touch them. There's nothing to see. Go away, go away. Guan Qingyan shouted in a low voice, Mu Jia, come back. Mu Jia reluctantly let go of her hand and snorted. I don't want my wings either. Han Fei, does your wings have a name? Han Fei smiled faintly. Phantom glass wings. Chao Qiu was still pulling Han Fei's wings, but Han Fei pushed him away. Enough. If you're done, get out of here. Chao Qiu said carelessly, Han Fei, let me tell you, this needs to be researched. Before Chao Qiu finished speaking, he saw that Zhou Ling was pursing her lips and looking at him. She was not threatening and her eyes were even watery. Chao Qiu didn't know what to say. After a long daze, Chao Qiu retracted his hand in embarrassment. I'll go. Han Fei, did you go to the Empyrean waterfall too? Then I'll go to see you tomorrow. Let me tell you, my research has made extraordinary achievements. Wait for me. Han Fei rolled his eyes and said, I may not go back to the Empyrean waterfall in the next few days. You can go back now. Han Fei glanced at those who hadn't left, immediately rose into the sky, and flew away. On the fishing boat 1,000 kilometers away, Han Fei had already put away the phantom glass wings. They were beautiful, but it was meaningless to show them off all the time. After all, the wings were only useful for flying and fighting, and there was no need to show them all the time, right? But now Han Fei was very depressed. Because there was another person on his fishing boat. Han Fei said with a bitter smile, Xiao Jiao, why did you come to the Wind Sky Canyon? Zhou Ling smiled. After I consolidated my cultivation, I learned that you came to the Wind Sky Canyon, so I came here. Han Fei was briefly stunned. I'm here. Why did you come? Zhou Ling blushed and said, To protect you. Han Fei's lips twitched. The atmosphere was not right, so he quickly waved his hand and said, "No, no, I'm a man. Why do I need protection? Go back. I'll take a look around." However, Joanne Ling didn't move. She still pursed her lips and stood on Han Fei's boat. Han Fei was lost for words. "What's wrong with her?" Han Fei said timidly, "Why don't you go back first? I want to take a look at the Sea of Pearls." Joanne Ling said, "You've just become a hidden fisher, and your comprehensive strength will increase greatly. You need to adapt to it. And after you completely adapt to it, your overall strength will once again increase by a small margin. So, it's better for you to consolidate at the Empyrean waterfall." Han Fei was briefly stunned. "Really?" Joanne Ling nodded hard. Yes, yes. Thinking of Joanne Ling, Han Fei knew that she had to go back with him. Immediately he said, "It's fine. I can consolidate my strength on the sea. I can also consolidate my strength by fighting a half-mermaid in the sea demon realm." Joanne Ling pursed her lips and said, "Then I'll go with you." Han Fei staggered. That's not necessary. It's convenient for me to be alone. Besides, who dares to come when you're a law enforcer? Joanne Ling still didn't leave. "I'll stay and date you." Pooh! Han Fei sat on his deck and looked at Joanne Ling, dumbfounded. Han Fei grumbled and got to his feet. "Wait, what date? We're just neighbors. Besides, let me tell you, I have a girlfriend." Joanne Ling still pursed her lips. "I know. She's gone. She won't be back for a long, long time." Cough, cough. Han Fei was lost for words. It was definitely Wang Dashui. How about White Dew? How could he tell this to an outsider? Han Fei said gloomily, "No, we're not suitable. You don't like me?" Han Fei opened his mouth. "What's wrong with her?" Joanne Ling suddenly took a deep breath and said, "You helped me straighten out the comfort technique. So, if you don't dislike me, you'll be my boyfriend in the future." Pooh. Han Fei said with a crying face, "What if I dislike you?" Joanne Ling's smile immediately dropped, and her tears fell. Hey, don't cry, don't cry. Oh my God. Han Fei scolded, "Don't cry. Stop it." Joanne Ling was startled by Han Fei. She quickly wiped her tears and hummed in a low voice. Seeing that her tears were still rolling in her eyes, Han Fei was upset. "It's all Granny Yin's fault. If I had known this, I wouldn't have visited her." Han Fei turned around and waved his hand. "Don't make me criticize you. Forget it. I'll go back to the Empyrean waterfall. I'll go back." First update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 849. Han Fei flew all the way back to the Empyrean waterfall. He was very melancholic at the moment. One could even say that he was extremely melancholic. Alas! Han Fei sat at the dinner table in Wang Dashui's house, with a bowl of rice in front of him. Anyone who saw it would be sad. He finally managed to scare Joanne Ling away. He said that Wang Dashui's people ate their meals one by one, which scared Joanne Ling away. Alas! At the dinner table, Wang Dashui, Bai Lu, and Qing Chen all looked at Han Fei in a daze. Wang Dashui scratched his head and said, "Little junior brother, you've sighed more than 100 times. What's wrong?" Bai Lu also said nervously, "Yes. What's wrong with you? Didn't you get the Wind God Pearl and the Phantom Glass Wings? Why are you sighing?" Qing Chen nodded quickly. "I'm full of jealousy now." "Yes, jealousy." Han Fei leisurely put his hand on the table. "It's hard. Sister-in-law, Joanne Ling really likes me this time. I'm so worried." Instantly, Bai Lu rolled her eyes. "What are you worried about? She's such a good girl." Qing Chen also nodded. "Brother Han, I think you don't know how lucky you are. I heard that the technique that little Jiao cultivates is to be at ease, not to follow her heart. If you want to be at ease, you have to conform to your deepest and most fundamental thoughts. But with her temperament, she was especially pliable and obedient. Although she's a law enforcer now, she won't dare to go west if you tell her to go east." Smith. Han Fei slapped the table. "Which bastard created this technique? If I find out, I'll definitely kill him." Wang Dashuai said unhurriedly, "It seems to be a technique from the ancient times. I heard that it may have been created by a king-level expert." Han Fei was dumbfounded. Does this king-level expert have nothing better to do? Can't he create a good technique or two? What kind of technique is this? It makes me feel very uncomfortable. Qing Chen patted Han Fei's shoulder and said, "It's normal to feel uncomfortable. Little Jiu must be feeling uneasy right now because you rejected her repeatedly, so she must be feeling uneasy. But think about it, if you don't refuse, you might be able to create an explorer within 2 years. Do you understand? An explorer. In the future, no one will dare to provoke you." Bai Lu nodded. Well, Qing Chen is right. Maybe it's possible. Moreover, this matter, the more junior brother is against it, the more uncomfortable little Nine will be. At that time, once she is at ease, her strength may instantly soar. Han Fei opened his mouth. Why can't I talk to them? Han Fei was lost for words. I have a girlfriend. Aren't you forcing me to have an affair? If Xia Xiaochan finds out, she will definitely kill me. No, definitely not. Looking at the bowl of white rice in front of him, Han Fei blinked. Sister-in-law, I'm not in a good mood. I'm going to find someone to fight. Pa! Bai Lu slapped the table and shouted, "Come back and finish the food for me." In an instant, Wang Dashuai and Qing Chen buried their heads in eating, which made Han Fei shiver, and he sat down again. God knew how Han Fei swallowed this bowl of rice. In any case, it was stuffed into his mouth. He swore that he would never come to Wang Dashuai's house to eat again. She was even scarier than Jiuyin Ling. After the meal, Han Fei was about to go home. Before he walked far, he saw Jiuyin Ling standing at the gate of his yard. Han Fei turned around and walked into Yi Qingfeng's house. Alas! Han Fei heaved a long sigh. Senior Yi, is there poison? I want to take a sip. Yi Qingfeng was trimming a poisonous grass. He looked up at Han Fei. Why are you sighing? In the corner, there is a fire hornbug. Tap its head twice and let it drip 2 drops of poison into the tea. After a while, Han Fei held the teacup and sighed. Senior Yi, is there any way to make little Nine give up? Bam! Han Fei flew out of the yard and rolled twice on the ground. He got up with a grunt, knocked left and right, whistled, and braced himself to walk back. When passing by Granny Yin's house, Han Fei quickly slipped over. In the yard, Granny Yin shouted, "Why are you running? Come in." Pa. Han Fei leaned against the door and said, "Senior, are you looking for me?" Granny Yin raised her chin. Sit. Han Fei obediently sat on the stool and sighed subconsciously. Granny Yin couldn't help but put down a piece of fish skin in her hand and sneered. Don't be so greedy. Do you know? Little Nine can only cultivate one person in his life. Once he makes up his mind, he won't look back. Besides, little Nine is also very good. Han Fei frowned and said, "But the problem is that I have a girlfriend. Don't ask me why she is not here now. Although I am not a good person, I am very serious about love. I can't be a two-timer." Granny Yin glanced at Han Fei. Is Xia Xiaochan so good? Han Fei thought for a moment and slightly shook his head. Not so good, but I like her. Granny Yin snorted and said, "In fact, there are 2 ways, but they are extremely difficult." Han Fei's eyes suddenly lit up and he was overjoyed. Boys, who do you think I am? Nothing in the world is difficult for those who set their minds on it. Besides, there are 2 ways. How great! Granny Yin snorted. Don't be too happy. Let me tell you. Han Fei nodded like a chick pecking rice. Go ahead, go ahead. Granny Yin looked up at the sky and sighed. Legend has it that in ancient times, there was an unparalleled book. Even in the 1,000-star city, it is only a legend. That book is called the Big Dream Heavenly Book, which teaches people how to dream and enter reincarnation. If you have this book, you may be able to enter Little Nine's dream and fulfill her wish. Huh! Han Fei rubbed his eyebrows. Are you kidding me? Where am I going to find such a legendary cultivation technique? Han Fei heaved a long sigh. What's the other one? Granny Yin said lightly, There is another one, which is also a strange technique in ancient legends. It is called the myriad things 3. It is said that it can separate one person into 3. In this way, you will have 2 extra incarnations. Besides, you can choose not to communicate with your incarnations. Han Fei was speechless. Aren't you making things difficult for me? Where can I find this myriad things 3? Besides, even if I find it, I won't be able to find it. Even if I find it, my incarnations will still be me, won't they? Han Fei thought to himself, this old lady is too unreliable. She doesn't care about me at all. Granny Yin said leisurely, that's why it is extremely difficult. Who knew that you would be so single-minded? No matter in the village, there are many people who marry multiple wives. Isn't it good for you to have one more? Han Fei stood up. But you can continue to bask in the sun. I think I'd better solve it myself. Wait a minute. Han Fei looked back, only to see Granny Yin looking at the stool. Helplessly, Han Fei sat down again. Granny Yin said, it's not that there isn't a third way, but it's also extremely difficult. Han Fei's eyelids twitched. Is it another ancient legend? Granny Yin glared at Han Fei grumpily. This method is indeed difficult, but it has nothing to do with ancient legends. Han Fei perked up. What is it? Granny Yin said leisurely, expand the sea and become a king. Han Fei was stunned. What do you mean? Granny Yin said with a faint smile, the realm above the explorer is the venerable. I think you must have heard of it. What about the realm above the venerable? It's the sea expansion realm, which is the legendary king realm. However, there is none in the 1,000-star city. Han Fei asked in surprise, above the venerable is the king realm? Granny Yin nodded. But the sea expansion realm is too difficult. An old lady like me can't do it. But little Jiao has a chance. You've seen her talent. It's not impossible for her to succeed. Anyway, your little girlfriend is not here. If you can help little Jiao expand the sea, the freedom technique won't be able to lock her anymore. You can break up with her then. Han Fei's heart sank. He got up and said, got it? I'll think about it. Granny Yin narrowed her eyes slightly. Okay, go. Out of the yard, Han Fei narrowed his eyes. Granny Yin actually wanted to tell him the third way, right? She said she could help little Jiao expand the sea, but she didn't say he could. That was, in her opinion, Jiao Yinling had the highest chance of becoming a king. However, Granny Yin also said that no one in the 1,000-star city could expand the sea, which meant that there was no king. So, was it a coincidence that Jiao Yinling practiced the freedom technique? Why was it him? Did they want him to help little Jiao expand the sea? Or did they simply want a king? An expert who could stand at the top of the 1,000-star city? At this moment, Han Fei's mind raced. Looking at Jiao Yinling in the distance, Han Fei quickly walked over. After a moment, standing in front of Jiao Yinling, Han Fei said casually, follow me. Second update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 850. Han Fei felt very uncomfortable seeing Jiao Yinling's obedient behavior. Even if you're in a relationship, you shouldn't do it like this. What kind of freedom-breaking technique is that? It's purely making people uncomfortable. It's clearly making people uncomfortable. Han Fei even suspected that Jiao Yinling was forced to cultivate the freedom-breaking technique. At home, Han Fei said solemnly, Xiao Jiao, is there something wrong with your freedom-breaking technique? Jiao Yinling blinked her eyes. No. The freedom-breaking technique, also known as the freedom and nature technique, is a magical technique inherited from bloodline. Someone in my family seemed to have obtained it more than 300 years ago. However, that ancestor died when he was a hidden fisher and couldn't reach higher levels. Han Fei pondered for a while and suddenly smiled. Actually, I'm from a village. I can't compare to the big families in the 1,000-star city. I don't care. Han Fei's face stiffened for a moment, then he smiled. Then you have to tell me your background and identity, right? Jiao Yinling nodded quickly. Actually, our family is also a declining family in the 1,000-star city. Because of the thinness of our bloodline, The current population of the family is less than 100. After a moment, Han Fei was enlightened. This girl had already explained everything very clearly. Apart from her younger brother, she was the only one in her generation. Her younger brother was only 5 years old this year and hadn't inherited the freedom-breaking technique. That was because it depended on luck as well. Therefore, her family could only pin their hopes on her. Therefore, this girl had been cultivating wholeheartedly since she was a child. It was foreseeable that once Joeen Ling broke through to the explorer realm, their family would definitely rise. Han Fei couldn't help but sigh slightly. He had never had any concept of family. At this moment, after listening to Joeen Ling for a long time, he suddenly said, "Can you show me your freedom and nature technique?" Han Fei pondered. If it didn't work, he could try deducing the freedom and nature technique for her for free. What if she didn't want to look for trouble? Briefly stunned, Joeen Ling nodded. A moment later, she took out a jade slip and handed it to Han Fei. At the same time, Joeen Ling also said, "However, the comfort and nature technique can only be cultivated with a special bloodline." Han Fei waved his hand and said, "It doesn't matter. I don't practice it. Let me help you see if there are any problems with this cultivation method." Han Fei wasn't surprised that Joeen Ling gave him the comfort and nature technique without hesitation. In any case, others couldn't cultivate it. In any case, Joeen Ling wanted to date him, so it was only natural for her to give it to him. Han Fei took the jade slip and scanned it. Comfort and Nature Technique, Heaven-Level Divine Quality. Introduction. In ancient times, a powerhouse intercepted the 9 notes of the heavenly Tao and fused it with his bloodline and soul to derive a peculiar technique that secretly conforms to the Tao of heaven and man. The cultivation of this method was to find freedom in the world, and it was also known as the human Tao. In order to cultivate this technique, one had to obtain the bloodline inheritance of this expert. One had to have no distractions in the heart, one had to feel the various forms of life, and one had to enter the world. Once he broke through, his strength would increase rapidly. Deduction cost, 0/100 000 deduction result. Unknown note. The heavenly Tao is not limited to the 9 sounds. This technique must be incomplete. As expected, Han Fei secretly praised himself for his wits. There was indeed something wrong with this technique. Although it was a heaven-level divine quality technique, it had a big problem when it was first created. The demon purification pot said that the heavenly Tao was more than 9 notes. Han Fei didn't think so. Han Fei immediately grinned. As long as he could find the problem, there would be a way to solve it. It wasn't as complicated as Granny Een made it out to be. What ancient book? He could look for it himself in the sky. Then what if one person was divided into 3? What if they met each other? Were they to form a family? Seeing Han Fei's smile, Joeen Ling couldn't help but ask curiously, "Do you understand?" "I just find it funny." "Xiao Jiao, how many notes do you think the heavenly Tao has?" Joeen Ling said solemnly, 9. Han Fei grinned and looked up at Joeen Ling. "Do you trust me?" Joeen Ling nodded solemnly. Han Fei smiled casually. "That's good. Get me 100,000 caddies of spiritual spring. Don't ask me why." Joeen Ling was stunned for a moment. Then, she nervously pinched the corner of her clothes and suddenly blushed. "My family is poor." Han Fei's smile suddenly froze. "Isn't your family from the 1,000-star city? No matter how poor your family is, can't you get 100,000 caddies of spiritual spring?" Joeen Ling lowered her head and said nervously, "In order to cultivate for me, my family has given me all the resources." Alas. Han Fei heaved a long sigh. Although Joeen Ling's realm was high, she was still like a girl who didn't know anything about the world. Did he have to give her 100 million points of spiritual energy? That was impossible. Although he still had a little more than 100 million points of spiritual energy, he couldn't deduce the comfort and nature technique. What should he do after the deduction? Han Fei couldn't help but say, "Xiao Jiao, let me tell you this, your cultivation technique is incomplete." Joeen Ling suddenly raised her head. "No, that's impossible." Han Fei sneered. "There are more than 9 notes in the heavenly Tao." There are 3,000 great Daos, 10,000 heavenly sounds, and billions of stars. How can there only be 9 notes? Zhou Ling was at a loss for a moment. But, according to the technique, Han Fei stood up and said leisurely, "A technique is a technique. Maybe your ancestor made a mistake when he created this technique. But don't panic. Isn't there a way to enter the human world in your technique? Have you seen the human world? Have you seen the billions of people here? Have you been to villages and towns, farmed, bought vegetables, and cooked? Have you really become acquainted with ordinary people?" Zhou Ling was stunned for a while and then slightly shook her head. Han Fei chuckled. "See, that's right. Do you think fighting sea demons on the Scattered Stars Island is entering the human world? You have to try to start as an ordinary person and experience the life of ordinary people. That's entering the human world. You haven't even entered the human world yet. What's the use of dating?" Zhou Ling slightly frowned and was at a loss. Are you coming with me?" Han Fei almost stumbled. It didn't make sense to talk to this girl. Although Zhou Ling looked dignified when she showed the demeanor of an expert, she was actually a naive girl. This was a serious problem. Han Fei was very uncomfortable and tried to find something to talk about. "You have your freedom and I have mine. Well, if you want to be my girlfriend and let me take you to experience the human world, wait for me to become a law enforcer first." Before Zhou Ling said anything, Han Fei quickly said, "My path is not simpler than yours. I bet that if you were in the same realm as me, you would be no match for me." Zhou Ling thought for a moment, nodded slightly, and then said weakly, "I can help you." Han Fei put on a smile. "No, I have to walk my own path. It has nothing to do with others. Even when Xia Xiaochan was here, she never interfered with my path. This is the basic etiquette of a girlfriend." Zhou Ling was silent for a long time. But Han Fei secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He finally fooled her. Let's fool her first and then. Law enforcer? Hee, with my advancement speed, it's still too early for me to become a law enforcer. Even if I become a law enforcer, so what? Zhou Ling was only at the early stage of law enforcer. She could at least continue to cultivate, and he would still have time in the future. When he became a law enforcer in the future, he might have already obtained 100 million points of spiritual energy. If you really can't, I'll take you to be an ordinary person, okay? After being an ordinary person, you might be able to advance, and maybe even become a peak-level law enforcer. Han Fei felt that he was almost convinced by himself. So, he struck while the iron was hot. Shall I arrange a task for you? Zhou Ling? Han Fei's face was beaming with a bright smile. In the future, you should go shopping more often. Shopping? Han Fei nodded seriously. Yes, just shopping. To make some friends and observe what normal people usually do. You're right. I've just become a hidden fisher and need to stabilize myself. I'll go find Nameless and the others to fight. Let's work hard together. Yes, work hard together. Gradually, a smile appeared on Zhou Ling's face. Together, hard. Han Fei nodded like a chicken pecking rice. Yes. Falling in love is not something that can be done easily. It needs a buffer of time. Yes, a buffer. Only when the opportunity comes and it feels right, let nature take its course. Do you understand? Zhou Ling shook her head blankly. Han Fei suddenly slapped his thigh. You don't understand? That's right. This is a kind of entering the human world. You have to go through this process. How can you fall in love just because you want to? What do you want to fall in love with? How about this? Go back and think about it. There's no hurry. As the saying goes, more haste, less speed, and less desire. It wasn't easy for him to fool Zhou Ling away. Han Fei sat on a chair. Phew. That scared me. Well, let's stall for 2 years first. Han Fei thought, if these people force me again, I'll have to find a way to run away and become a sea demon. Temporarily solving this matter, Han Fei suddenly got up and walked out of the courtyard. Since he was back, he might as well go fight. As for the Sea of Pearls? He would leave it for a couple of days until he was fully familiar with his current physique and combat power. The 3rd chapter. Asking for votes. Note, this book doesn't have a harem. But today is the 3rd chapter. I'm planning something. No, I'll see it this month. Oh, end of this chapter. Chapter 851. Han Fei walked all the way to the periphery of the Empyrean waterfall. When he passed by Yui's house, he found that the girl was humming and pruning the flowers. When she saw Han Fei, Yui smiled brilliantly and greeted him. How did it go? Did you compromise? Han Fei was speechless. Compromise? What compromise? By the way, do you know who is the best stick wielder in the Empyrean waterfall? Yui smiled faintly. Of course it's old Du. It's Yu Shire's house, the one behind it. Are you going to fight him? Han Fei smiled. That's right. I just made a breakthrough. My hands are itchy. Yui suddenly said, I heard that your phantom glass wings are very beautiful? The corner of Han Fei's mouth twitched. I'm not a big yellow fish. There's nothing beautiful about them. After chatting with Yui for a while, Han Fei went straight to Wu Ming, who was still sitting on the big green rock. Seeing Han Fei coming over, Wu Ming immediately opened his eyes and glanced at Han Fei casually. Congratulations. Han Fei smiled faintly and said, Are you interested in another battle? Wu Ming's eyes immediately lit up. Of course. Ning Jingyao in the distance suddenly shouted, Hey, hey, hey. Han Fei, you fought Do Wu Ming once. Isn't it our turn? Han Fei turned his head and looked around. Don't panic. Let's fight one by one. Immediately, many people secretly took a deep breath. Judging from Han Fei's tone, was he going to fight them one by one? Immediately, someone said delightedly, I like his personality. That's how it should be. How can I stay at home every day without fighting? I like fighting and hot-blooded. Immediately, some people went out and leaned against the wall. Some people sat on the roof. Some people squatted on the roadside and watched, like loafers in the countryside. And some people scanned over with their perception. Han Fei's idea was that now that he had become a hidden fisher, he had to slowly summarize the most suitable combat skill for himself. In other words, Han Fei was going to comprehend every combat skill that he had practiced. For Han Fei, even if a combat skill only had one move, as long as he completely grasped it, it would be considered a success. Han Fei stepped into the 300-meter sword domain without hesitation. Wu Ming immediately put his hands on the sword. In that instant, the sky was filled with sword shadows, flying towards him. A kitchen knife suddenly appeared in Han Fei's hand. Ding ding dang dang. In an instant, Han Fei, who was in the sword domain, changed his figure and attacked at an extremely fast speed. He used the kitchen knife to cut the sword light. At this moment, his terrifying movement technique was displayed to the fullest. Han Fei was twisting his body in a non-human way. But no matter how fast Han Fei was, how could he resist the dense and infinite sword lights? Dang dang dang. Starting from the 10th second, when Han Fei was 100 meters deep, more than 10 streaks of sword chi swept at him almost every second. However, when the first sword chi fell on Han Fei, Wu Ming's eyes narrowed slightly and he murmured, What a strong physique. Han Fei was still meticulously shredding the sword chi and moving forward step by step. When he was only 100 meters away from Wu Ming, Han Fei suddenly burst out dozens of afterimages. His figure changed so quickly that it was dazzling to the point of blurring. At this moment, many people who were watching the show with smiles on their faces stopped smiling. Ning Jingyao became serious and his eyes were deep. He is not sparring. He is honing his movement technique. Also, he wants to find out his limit through Wu Ming. Li Luoluo also came over and sat on the roof of Ning Jingyao's house. She curled her lips and said, Is he using us as whetstones? Someone smiled faintly. It's not our turn yet. But I think he has this plan. But it's not bad for Wu Ming. If his 300-meter sword domain really meets someone like Han Fei, who has thick skin and amazing movement technique. Someone shook his head. If he does meet him, Wu Ming will attack immediately. He won't waste so much time. Last time, he ate at Han Fei's house and now karma has come. Wu Ming is embarrassed. He immediately attacked. However, this is good. I can see Han Fei's potential. Han Fei's movement technique was changing. The 64-dimensional fish dragon dance began to derive all the footwork combat skills he had learned. Although he still couldn't completely avoid and resist these sword chi shadows, he was not in a hurry. He knew that Wu Ming was not in a hurry either, because up until now, it was the sword domain itself that was attacking. 64? Han Fei naturally knew that the 64-dimensional fish dragon dance could simulate all kinds of movement techniques. But Han Fei had been neglecting one problem, which was the 64-dimensional fish dragon dance itself. If all the 64 changes were performed, Pucci. Han Fei's afterimages appeared in the 300-meter sword domain one after another and were shattered by the sword chi. However, there were more and more afterimages, to the extent that the sword chi couldn't even attack them at the same time. Ha! Someone said in surprise, Han Fei's afterimages are also avoiding the sword chi. Someone was confused. That's not right. Those afterimages can be distinguished at a glance. Is it necessary to avoid the sword chi? Suddenly someone said, wait, Han Fei is trying to switch between the afterimages. Yi murmured. He walked forward another 50 meters. Every breath, there would only be a dozen or so sword chi that landed on his body. It has become less. After about 5 minutes, Wu Ming suddenly said, my spiritual energy is running out. Take a sword strike from me. With that, Wu Ming drew his sword, and a snow-silver cold light suddenly flashed, splitting the sky like lightning. When he took this sword strike, Han Fei retreated quickly, and the blood-drinking knife in his hand, like a flying butterfly, cut 23 times on the sword light in a row. In the end, the corners of Han Fei's mouth curled up slightly. He finally used the draw technique and smashed Wu Ming's sword strike with one slash. Wu Ming was slightly surprised. The flaw of my sword strike? Han Fei put away the blood-drinking knife, pointed his finger, and a column of spiritual energy drilled into Wu Ming's body. Almost. Your sword strike is strong, but it's too fast. Wu Ming frowned. Speed is invincible, right? Han Fei thought for a moment and explained, yes and no. For those who are slower than you, you'll definitely win. For those who are faster than you, because your sword is too fast, they won't be able to follow up. As long as the outer layer of sword light is broken, the threat of this sword strike will be small. Wu Ming slightly nodded. Not bad. You can come again later. Han Fei twisted his head, and his clothes were already in tatters. He raised his head and looked at Ning Jingyao. Do you want to play with knives? Ning Jingyao grinned and said, sure. Li Luoluo exclaimed and said, Ning Jingyao, go up to the sky and fight. Don't fight here. Someone echoed, yes, yes, go up to the sky. Don't come down. Han Fei was confused. Someone said, Ning Jingyao is quite destructive. On the ground, it would take him half a day to repair a road. Han Fei narrowed his eyes. Is he really that strong? Ning Jingyao chuckled too. You're exaggerating. I'm very steady. I'm not that exaggerating. Steady my ass. Just go up. Ning Jingyao didn't explain. With a splash, he spread his wings, and the white feathers soared into the sky. He didn't stop until he was 500 meters in the air. Han Fei grinned and unfolded the phantom glass wings. With a gentle flap of the dazzling glass wings, he soared into the sky. Someone asked in surprise, is this the phantom glass wings? Yui smiled casually. Beautiful, even more beautiful than my sky blue flower. Lying on the roof, Li Luoluo looked at the sky and said, it is beautiful. However, if Han Fei is training himself, he probably won't use the ability of the phantom glass wings. What a pity. Holding a bowl, Yushire looked up at the sky enviously. In the sky, Ning Jingyao said with a smile, the knife technique I practice is also called the star demonic knife. You can actually come to me at night. However, I'm not weak during the day. Han Fei thought for a moment. I have the draw technique. 10,000 knives in one. Then, Han Fei grabbed at the Empyrean waterfall. On the Empyrean waterfall's side, steam was rising and clouds were rising. So, there was no shortage of water. Han Fei, who had lost his knife, could use water, so it was the same. He planned to give up the million knife art completely. That thing really consumed too much of his weapon. To really cultivate 10,000 knives? That was unrealistic. Even if he had 10,000 knives, once he made a breakthrough, it would be a serious problem to replace those knives. Therefore, it was not necessarily a bad thing to give up decisively. He grabbed the clouds and condensed the water knives just to cover up the infinity water. In a sense, the knives that Han Fei transformed with the infinity water should be stronger than ordinary ultra-quality spiritual weapons, and should have reached the level of an ultra-quality spiritual weapon with a sealed spirit. It could be seen that in the future, the infinity water was very likely no. It was definitely possible to burst out the power of a semi-divine weapon or even a divine weapon. Ning Jingyao didn't care. No matter who the opponent was, he just needed to break them with one knife. If one knife didn't work, then two. If two didn't work, then three. Hold the sun and the moon and pick the stars. Ning Jingyao's aura suddenly changed, and an illusory long knife seemed to condense beside him. He clamped the long knife with both hands and raised it in an instant. The wind blew around, and the light bloomed. Weird and terrifying. The 100-meter-long knife shadow, illusory, slashed directly at Han Fei. Shoot! Is this guy so crazy? Han Fei was also stunned. It was the first time he had seen someone fight with a 100-meter-long knife attack. Besides, that knife was actually not weaker than Wu Ming's sword attack just now. Domineering, weird, terrifying, different from swordsmen, people who used knives were usually more violent and tough. Just like this knife, it directly slashed down, shaking everyone's mind. Han Fei immediately gave up the 10,000 knives in one. When the blood-drinking knife was drawn, all his essence, qi, and spirit were integrated into the knife. Han Fei waved the knife horizontally, and a 10-meter-long knife light cut up horizontally. Clang, the roar, under this waterfall, produced bursts of echoes. Each sound carried a touch of air wave. Above the sky, halos flashed. The Empyrean waterfall, the waterfall curved. Above the Empyrean waterfall, in the surging waves, Qing Chen was looking at the sky in astonishment, watching the collision that was as bright as the sun, and murmured, "Wow, it's really fierce." First, asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 852. Han Fei realized that he had underestimated the people in the Empyrean waterfall. At this moment, Han Fei also figured it out. Those who were sent here to guard the big turtle, actually, they were sent here to become law enforcers. How could those who could become law enforcers be weak? For example, Wu Ming didn't move, but his sword was full of boundless light. Ning Jingyao, for example, was so dominating that he could cut the sky and the waterfall with his saber. Of course, everybody knew Ning Jingyao's capability and seemed to have witnessed it. However, nobody had ever seen Han Fei fight with his full strength. When he performed the draw technique, the invincible technique was fully displayed by Han Fei. In the end, the draw technique unleashed a dazzling golden light. The 100-meter-long saber fell 3 meters before Han Fei and couldn't move forward. The draw technique crushed the 100-meter-long saber from head to tail. Ning Jingyao grinned. The stars are boundless. As Ning Jingyao roared, in front of him, under his feet, and around him, starlight flashed, and light shadows were condensed and slashed at Han Fei crazily. While he was smiling, the sky was full of light blades. The stars were not extinguished, and the light blades were endless. Even Han Fei felt that his blood was freezing. Down below, Wu Ming said solemnly, Ning Jingyao is getting more and more comfortable with this attack. Holding his rod, Du Jianglu looked up at the sky. This lunatic. Yushire subconsciously slurped the fish soup in his bowl and said stupidly, both of them are so strong. I envy them. Li Luoluo looked at a man in black far away. I don't think the Dark Hunter Legion has a chance. It's only natural that they can defeat the Dark Hunter Legion if they can fight Ning Jingyao so fiercely. The man didn't speak. However, he slightly nodded. Seeing the craziness on Ning Jingyao's face, Han Fei finally realized why these people didn't let him fight on the ground. If they were to make a move, as long as the battle situation was just a little bit more intense, the surrounding dozens of miles would probably be razed to the ground in an instant. Looking at the saber light in the sky, Han Fei stepped in the air and pointed. 10,000 knives in one. Well, there seemed to be surging waves in the sky. As the waves surged out, countless water sabers shot out. In the blink of an eye, the sky above the Empyrean waterfall was filled with starlight and waves. Thousands of weapons clashed in the void. The saber chi directly spread from a height of more than 500 meters to the ground. Yui was the first to change her expression. She stood in midair, and a huge spinning net covered the sky. Yui shouted towards the sky, "You too, attack higher." Yui looked down at the flowers and plants in her yard and heaved a long sigh of relief. Fortunately, he did not dare to go too far away from home, otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. The two of them rose higher and higher as they fought. Clang, clang, clang. The first 100 spatial ripples undulated in the sky. Both sides were locked in a stalemate. In the distance, someone flew over. However, when he saw that it was a competition between the people of the Empyrean waterfall, he was lost for words. Is this a competition? The shockwave had already spread hundreds of miles away. Someone thought, the lunatics of the Empyrean waterfall only know how to fight. They cause trouble every day. I wish they could all be kicked out of the Scattered Stars Island. While the water sabers and the lightsabers were slashing each other, Han Fei and Ning Jingyao had already collided in close combat. Once they were in close combat, Ning Jingyao was at a disadvantage. He didn't have a fancy movement technique like Han Fei's, so he was repeatedly slashed. In fact, Han Fei was at a disadvantage too. His movement technique was good, but Ning Jingyao's Star Devil Blade could generate sabers wherever there was light. Han Fei was also slashed. But at this moment, Han Fei had another advantage. His skin was thick, and the lightsabers couldn't hurt him at all. Ning Jingyao was lost for words at that point. How could he possibly fight them? I'm done, I'm done. After Ning Jingyao yelled 7 or 8 times in frustration, the starlight and the huge waves in the sky finally disappeared. When the two of them landed, their clothes were both in tatters, and they were no better off than the other. Ning Jingyao was lost for words. How did you train your body? You can't even cut it with the strength of a junior hidden fisher. How can you fight? Han Fei chuckled. I can't hurt you either. Ning Jingyao pulled his ragged sleeve and revealed his arm that was full of bloodstains. You can't hurt me? Thankfully, my level is much higher than yours, or I would have been killed by you. Li Luoluo nodded. Yes. It can be seen that Han Fei won the battle, because his body is stronger than yours. Ning Jingyao didn't care at all and laughed. Don't panic, don't panic. That's more interesting. What's the point if there are no opponents? Immediately, someone sneered. Ning Jingyao, do you think you're invincible? Why don't we have a practice? The person who spoke was gloomy. He just went to Yu Shire's house to watch the show, but his house was cut apart in a moment of carelessness. His head was full of black lines. Ning Jingyao glanced at his house and chuckled. Old Wu, your house is too old to be repaired. Isn't it a good time to rebuild it? Here, cut down a tree. Humph. Han Fei warmed up and suddenly glanced at a tall, strong man. The man had a stick in his hand and was waiting for him with great interest. Han Fei glanced at him. Do you want to practice? The man nodded. Spirit gatherers are full of spiritual energy. You can still practice after the battle just now. Someone hurried to say, wait, you too, practice in the sky too. Yui suddenly shouted, Du Jianglu, don't use the burning infinite rod. The man chuckled. Don't worry. Your flowers and plants won't be hurt. I'll use the shadowless running thunder. Han Fei hurried to stop him. Hey. Actually, I'm not good at rod techniques. I can practice anywhere. No. Many people roared at the same time. What do you mean by anywhere? Don't you want to rebuild your house after it collapses? However, Ning Jingyao asked in surprise, Han Fei, you're going to use rod techniques? You know rod techniques too? Han Fei thought to himself, I have the embroidery needle, a sea-quelling bizarre treasure. How can I not learn it? In any case, rod techniques were compulsory classes, and he had to learn them. In fact, Han Fei didn't intend to continue the challenge. He intended to go back and find a couple of stick techniques to deduce them before he went to Du Jianglu. However, Du Jiangliu's eyes had been fixed on him since a long time ago. If he flinched, other people might think that he was scared. A moment later, in the sky. Bam, 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 crack, crack. Like thunderous explosions, sonic barriers were broken in the sky one after another. Han Fei felt that his blood was freezing. I'm done. I'm going back to practice. Lost for words, Du Jianglu shook his head. What kind of rod technique is that? You're not even at the demon level, are you? Han Fei landed on the ground and recalled the phantom glass wings. I just want to feel the power of the rod technique. However, don't worry. I'll practice it after I go back. I'll come back to you in a few days. I'm really tired today and didn't carry out my strength. Poochie! Someone was amused, and Li Luoluo said, Han Fei, you've already found a soul warrior to fight, and you don't want to fight other people? You don't want to consider Sister Yui's control technique and use Shire's armor? Han Fei chuckled. Not for now. I'm busy practicing my combat skills. I don't have time for anything else. Some people shook their heads. Seeing that there was no show to watch, they all went home. Speaking of which, they had a great time today. At least, everybody acknowledged Han Fei's strength. Those who could enter Little Nine's yard, who could obtain the phantom glass wings, who could walk into the 300-meter sword zone, and who could fight with Ning Jingyao, were truly monsters. As for Han Fei's appalling rod techniques, they were automatically ignored. When Han Fei walked back, he saw Joanne Ling smiling at him at the door of her house. Han Fei was so nervous that he was lost for words. Why are you giggling here instead of going shopping? Joanne Ling blushed at Han Fei's words. I'll take a look. Han Fei shook his head and heaved a sigh. You've seen it. There's a lot of things waiting for me to do. My rod techniques are not good enough, so I'll make up for it. My movement technique is not good enough. It seems that I'm still far from being a heavenly talent. Joanne Ling, Big Yellow, who was walking up to him, tilted its head and looked at Han Fei. I hate it when people brag about their fish. You scared my fish away. Han Fei casually threw a big fish more than 20 meters long with a mouth full of fangs to the ground. You can eat it yourself. My heart is tired. Meow. In fact, Han Fei paid special attention to this cat because it was the first cat he saw after coming to this world. It wasn't just cats. He hadn't seen any other land animals either. Therefore, when Han Fei saw a cat, he actually had a feeling of sympathy for it. Han Fei didn't know if it was a kind of meeting an old friend in a foreign land. After going back, he changed his clothes, took off on the fishing boat, and flew directly to the west of the city. On a small cliff not far away from the Path of Giants, the sun poured on the golden beach below the cliff, and the sea was covered with golden light. Occasionally, an unknown creature's head popped up and then dived into the sea. Zhang Xuanyu was sitting on the edge of the cliff. Beside him was a young girl, and the two of them were watching the sea. Zhang Xuanyu was bragging. Back then, when I was still a fishing master, my family collapsed, and my enemies were everywhere. I left my hometown alone. I still remember that the brilliant sun sprinkled all over the sea. At that time, I hoped that I could have a warm embrace by my side. Until I met you, I found that I had that feeling again. The girl next to him shyly turned her head aside. Really? Of course. My fiery heart is like this sun, brilliant and warm. Don't move. There's something on your eyelashes. Let me blow it for you. Zhang Xuanyu. Just as the two of them were very, very close, someone in the sky shouted. With a swish, the girl jumped down the cliff, covered her face and ran far away. Zhang Xuanyu quickly shouted, Hey, don't go. There's really something on your eyelashes. However, the girl had already run far away. Zhang Xuanyu immediately flew into a rage. Han Fei, you bastard, how many times have you ruined my business? Han Fei landed from the sky and looked at the girl who ran away. He was lost for words. You scammer. What else can you do except deceive ignorant girls? Zhang Xuanyu snorted angrily. Can't you show up later at the critical moment? Forget it, forget it. Didn't you go to catch the wind sky wings? Why are you back so soon? Second update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 853. Rod Techniques? After Han Fei explained his intentions, Zhang Xuanyu looked at him in surprise and couldn't help asking, why do you suddenly want to learn rod techniques? Han Fei, aren't the combat skills you're practicing now too diverse? Only by focusing on one can you last a long time. Han Fei smiled and said, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. If everything goes well, maybe I will also create a unique combat skill of my own. Zhang Xuanyu's eyes lit up. You've thought it through? Yes, this is the right way. In fact, Han Fei knew very well. Especially when he became a hidden fisher, Han Fei had a vague hunch that the hidden fisher was looking for a way. Therefore, no matter how many combat skills he practiced, they could help him, but they wouldn't become the mainstream. In this case, he could learn anything. Maybe these non-mainstream combat skills could even provide him with inspiration. Han Fei said lightly, just tell me what suits me. I don't ask for anything else. You need to have great strength, you need to be firm and fierce, you need to have sufficient momentum, and you need to have a strong explosive force. Zhang Xuanyu looked at Han Fei speechlessly. If you want my instant technique, just tell me. Han Fei sneered. Why would I want your instant technique? What I want is a traditional rod technique. It has a lot of skills, including attack and defense, and is flexible and infinitely useful. Your instant technique obviously doesn't meet my requirements. Zhang Xuanyu thought for a while and said, 9-layered waves in Furious Sea? Forget it, 9-layered waves in Furious Sea doesn't meet your requirements either. Let me think. After pondering for a moment, Zhang Xuanyu suddenly said in frustration, forget it, I don't want to think about it anymore. I'll find them for you. With that said, Zhang Xuanyu sat on the ground and took out hundreds of rod techniques. Under Han Fei's stunned gaze, this guy began to pick and choose. This is the Azura Demon Cudgel, upper demon level. Full of changes, nimble, and unpredictable moves. Very wild. And this, Sky-Lifting Rod, heaven level, low quality. It's extremely domineering, but its defense is not good. Here, this, Fierce Rod Technique, heaven level, low quality. It's extremely flexible, but its attack is not good. And this, Flowing Light Locking Rod, also heaven level, low quality. Except for its lack of strength, everything else is good. Han Fei was dazzled by Zhang Xuanyu's selection of more than a dozen. Han Fei was about to refuse, when it suddenly occurred to him that he could synthesize it. Immediately, Han Fei said unceremoniously, well, I'll take all of them. You can continue looking for your little girl. No, wait a minute. If you scare him away, who am I supposed to look for? Zhang Xuanyu glanced at Han Fei and asked, did you really get your wings from a level 63 Wind Sky Wing Soul King? Han Fei patted Zhang Xuanyu's shoulder and said, what do you think? Zhang Xuanyu was speechless. Fine, I'll wait for a few more days. Aren't you going to the Sea of Pearls? Do you want to wait for us? Although Lu Renkuang had just become a peak-level hanging fisher, he had a good foundation and needed another experience. Little White was now free. In the next few days, I'm planning to go to the sea to earn some points, so that I can get promoted to 6 stars earlier. Han Fei suddenly said, hey, wait, aren't you only 5-star? How do we go to sea? Zhang Xuanyu curled his lips and said, I'm leading the team out to sea. A 5-star can lead a team of 10 people. However, the range is limited to 3,000 kilometers. Han Fei asked, what about me? I'm already a 6-star slaughterer. How about I take you out? Han Fei didn't want to go back to the Empyrean waterfall because he had to see Jiuyin Ling again. Zhang Xuanyu put his arm around Han Fei's shoulder. Forget it, I'm not going with you. When Lu Renkuang and I become hidden fishers, let's go to the Sea of Pearls together. Aren't you going to practice rod techniques too? You should take advantage of this time to practice. I'll take Lu Renkuang with me. Han Fei thought to himself, if the two of them act together, no one can stop them within 3,000 kilometers. So, he was reassured. Okay, then be careful. I'm going to the central city. Han Fei hadn't been to the central city yet. He only knew that the best things and the strongest people on the Scattered Stars Island were all concentrated in the central city. The cities in the north, south, east, and west seemed to be very developed. However, most of the things there were for people with 6 stars and below. But the central city was different. There were few people here, but all of them were above 6 stars. And those who wanted to reach 6 stars had to be at least peak-level hanging fishers, and most of them were hidden fishers. Here, any random person could take on the role of the main defense line. They could even serve as a deputy commander. However, fishing boats were not allowed to fly over the central city. There were a total of 4 city gates to the central city. Han Fei came from the west city, so he naturally entered from the west city gate. The city was not high, less than 200 meters, and it was built with dark undersea mine rocks. The arched gate was no different from the city gates in Han Fei's memory. Outside the city gate, no one was guarding. Passing through the wide and majestic passage of the city gate, as soon as he entered the inner city, Han Fei suddenly looked sideways at the right corner, only to find 2 old men playing cards, fish dragon cards. The 2 old men didn't even look at Han Fei and continued to play cards. On the stone table, there were 2 plates of snacks, dried fish and sea spirit melon seeds. Han Fei couldn't see the strength of these 2 old men, but he knew that they were definitely stronger than him. Since they ignored him, he didn't need to pay attention to them either. So Han Fei went straight into the city and went to the logistics division. After Han Fei left, one of the old men said, "Is this the Han Fei who took the wind god pearl? He seems not bad." The other old man, pinching a small dried fish, stuffed it into his mouth. "Yes, I heard that Juin Ling became a law enforcer because of him. She is a capable young talent. She is a little reckless and has no rules." The other old man suddenly took out 4 tentacle lobsters. "Blow them up. Give me money, give me money." The style of the central city was no different from that of the outside, except that there were much fewer pedestrians on the road. When Han Fei found the logistics division, he found that there were only 9 windows. Here, the number of people looking through various resources added up to no more than 200 people. However, the number of 200 people was not a small number at all. The 200 people here were 200 hidden fishers or above, plus the pedestrians walking along the way and the people in other shops. The number of hidden fishers that Han Fei had seen so far definitely exceeded 1,000. Amazing, amazing, no wonder the 10,000 Demon Valley doesn't dare to launch a large-scale war. If these thousands of hidden fishers scatter in the sea around the Scattered Stars Island, won't they fight to the death? When Han Fei walked into the logistics division, many people who were chatting suddenly stopped and looked at Han Fei up and down. As if he didn't notice them, Han Fei went straight to a window and said, "I want to buy seal combat skills." In fact, there must be a lot of rod combat skills here, but Han Fei didn't want to spend money on them. After all, no matter how many there were not as many heaven-level techniques as Zhang Xuanyu's. Zhang Xuanyu bought rod combat skills in order to create his own combat skills, so he must choose the best ones. Instead of coming here to spend money, it was better to go to Zhang Xuanyu and ask for it directly. The pretty girl who received Han Fei was only a peak-level hanging fisher and had lost an arm. She must have been seriously injured in the battle, so she entered the central city as an exception. She said with a smile, "Please show me your star waist tag." After a while, the girl quickly sorted out a booklet and handed it to Han Fei. "You can choose here, or you can sit down in the hall and take your time to choose." Han Fei nodded slightly. Holding the booklet, Han Fei sat down in the hall and opened it, only to find that the booklet was more than 30 pages thick. On each page, there were 7 or 8 kinds of seal techniques. However, Han Fei directly ignored the seal techniques below the demon level and started to read from the demon level. In the central city, most people have actually met each other. They know who I am. Han Fei was amused. "Sister, let's change clothes before we go shopping. With your fluttering white clothes, I feel like I'm going to be killed by someone while you're talking to me. Juin Ling asked in confusion, why should I change clothes? Han Fei said seriously, look, you want to enter the world to observe the sufferings and complications of the world. Look at you, fluttering white clothes. Wherever you go, people will look at you. Oh, isn't this law enforcer Juin Ling? Even if something happens to me, I'll be fine. So Han Fei said, let's go. I'll take you shopping once. You can go shopping by yourself in the future. The third chapter? Asking for votes. The plot hasn't unfolded yet, so don't ask so many questions. The third chapter in the next few days. Soon, the plot here will be over, but it has to be done slowly day by day. I can't write everything in one go. Tickets, end of this chapter. Chapter 854. In Han Fei's home at the Empyrean Waterfall. Under Han Fei's careful guidance, Juin Ling had turned from a gentle girl into a handsome young man. Not exactly handsome. His appearance was more common because he used some disguise techniques, but his clothes were relatively clean. Juin Ling liked plain colors and she wanted white. Of course, Han Fei couldn't make it for her. After all, wearing white clothes, no matter how much you changed your appearance, you would still be very conspicuous. It would be hard for others not to notice you. Han Fei said solemnly, you should know how powerful the disguise technique is. As long as you are good at it, you can disguise yourself as anyone. However, Juin Ling was looking at herself in a basin of water and said aggrievedly, this isn't pretty at all. Han Fei was amused. Of course, why do I have to be so pretty? Do you want everyone to recognize you as Juin Ling? You're going to experience the life of an ordinary person and observe them in secret. You're not going to participate in a talent show. Listen to me, you're definitely right. What's a talent show? Han Fei waved his hand and said, it doesn't matter. What's important is that you dress like this when you go out in the future. You can buy a few more sets of men's clothes. It would be best if you could grow a mustache. You look like a gigolo right now. Juin Ling. It was obviously impossible for Han Fei and Juin Ling to sneak out of the Empyrean Waterfall. Han Fei didn't hide it from her. He only hoped that Juin Ling could figure out the secret of watching shows. On the ground, Ning Jingyao was slightly confused. He mumbled, aren't you unwilling? If you're not happy, why did you bring her out? Looking at the fishing boat that disappeared in the sky, Yu shook her head slightly and continued to hum and play with her flowers. To her, growing flowers was her Tao. After disguising himself, no one should be able to see through his true identity. The moment he landed in the city, he took Juin Ling to the sea creatures trade market, which had the most complicated flow of people. This place was even livelier than the port in the village. There were shops along the street, and they were basically big courtyards. Many people were selling and exchanging goods in the bustling market on the outskirts. By the roadside, someone had spread out the carpet and was exchanging. Pass by, don't miss. There are more than 20 kinds of living materials here. I'll sell them cheaply. They're freshly made. They cost 10 high-quality pearls each. I just dug up an undersea secret realm and sold it at a huge discount. I'm going to clear out my inventory at a loss. A rare and mysterious battle technique. Just because of the word mysterious, everyone came over to take a look. It doesn't cost anything just to look at it. On the Scattered Stars Island, there were not many people who sold food. However, Han Fei still bought 2 skewers of octopus tentacles and gave one to Juin Ling. Have a taste. This is what the people of the Scattered Stars Island should be like. It was no different from the village or the town. Of course, I've never been to the Thousand Star City, so I don't know. Suddenly, Han Fei's eyes lit up. He saw someone squatting down and spreading out a stall. The man waved his hand, and a trivariant golden ginseng fell on the fish skin stall. Immediately, Han Fei ran over. How much is this trivariant golden ginseng? The man glanced at Han Fei. He did not expect to run into a customer as soon as he arrived. His eyes immediately moved. Hey, Bro, the price of the trivariant golden ginseng is getting higher and higher. Recently, it was very rare for him to catch one. Well, you're my first customer today. 5,000 high-quality pearls, no bargaining. Han Fei sneered. Bro, I just came out of the refining hall. I just sold one there for 3,100, but you're selling it for 5,000. Isn't that too much? Jiuyin Ling said telepathically, we didn't go to the refining hall. Han Fei glanced at her. I'm bargaining. Don't talk nonsense. The man smiled and said, Bro, the price of good things is high now. You know that. Why don't you exchange it for an energy spiritual fruit? That thing is 500. Hee hee, but can it compare to the trivariant golden ginseng in terms of effect? Han Fei sneered. 3,500. Just sell it. If not, I'm leaving. There are so many people here. I think someone will pay for it. Just wait a little longer. Hey, brother, you're selling it for 1,500? Give me a point, give me a point. The trivariant golden ginseng is really hard to catch now. Look, in order to catch it, I was ambushed by a sea demon and my shoulder was pierced. As he spoke, the man was going to take off his clothes to show Han Fei. Han Fei grinned and said, That's none of my business. This thing is very nutritious, but I have to have time to eat it in a battle. Okay, I'll give you 100. After a moment, Han Fei said proudly, See? The trivariant golden ginseng was easily bought for only 3,600. It's not expensive, but it's really rare. Jiuyin Ling blinked her eyes. I don't think it's easy for him either. Han Fei was stunned. Then do you think it's easy for me? Jiuyin Ling nodded quickly. Han Fei, before they walked 1,000 meters, they saw two people holding two wrist-thick sea snakes in their hands. The two of them opened their mouths wide, bit through the tails of the snakes, and were crazily swallowing the blood of the sea snakes. Burp. Awesome. The two of them clapped their hands at each other with smiles on their faces. Jiuyin Ling's eyes widened. Han Fei smiled casually. It's very nutritious. It can increase your strength. But, should I just eat it like this? Han Fei curled his lips. So, you have to go shopping and go to the bottom of society. Only then can you really be a part of society. For a whole day, Han Fei took Jiuyin Ling to buy clothes, drive a turquoise fish, watch fights, and go to a casino. Jiuyin Ling was dumbfounded the whole time. She had never been to such a place before. Especially in the casino, Han Fei played pure gambling, but he lost 3,000 high-quality pearls, which made his blood freeze and his neck flush. At this moment, at the gate of a club on Carnival Street, Han Fei pointed at the club and said, Ordinary people come here to drink when they're tired and stressed. Let's go in and have a drink. Jiuyin Ling frowned. There's a bad smell in there. Han Fei grabbed her and entered the club. What's bad? Only when you're out of society can you be noble and pure. When you're in society, it's only dirty. The life of ordinary people is so dirty. The two of them came to the bar, and Han Fei shouted, Boss, 10 glasses of Firefox wine first. But the boss opened a hole in a steel can and grabbed it with one hand. The flame-like liquor splashed out and rolled into the glasses. The dark red Firefox wine was actually not as tasty as the liquor that Han Fei brewed. However, the taste was quite special. Every time Zhang Xuanyu came, he would order a bunch of them. Looking at the red liquid that was still burning in the glasses, Jiuyin Ling felt that she was about to grit her teeth. She frowned and wrinkled her nose. Gudu. Han Fei grabbed a random glass and poured it into his mouth. Try it? No. Jiuyin Ling couldn't hold it anymore. She could tolerate shopping during the day. At least, she didn't have to do it herself and drink blood. But now, was the Firefox wine any different from drinking blood? Han Fei curled his lips and said with a smile, How can you be a part of society if you can't even drink this? Let me tell you, cultivation is not a castle in the air. Which of the people on the Scattered Stars Island wasn't a heavenly talent? If they were in a village or a town, they would all be heavenly talents. But now, everyone is drinking Firefox wine here, and so am I. Han Fei emphasized the last sentence and then looked at Jiuyin Ling. However, the latter seemed to be on the verge of tears. Under Han Fei's gaze, Joeen Ling finally picked up a glass and looked at Han Fei. Han Fei urged, "Come on, drink." Fairies can only be in the sky, and women in the human world have to fall to the ground. Drink. Joeen Ling pursed her lips and closed her eyes as if she had made a major decision. She opened her mouth and poured the firefox wine into her mouth. Han Fei scratched his head. She choked. Han Fei said, "Don't panic, don't panic. Don't drink so hard." Then Han Fei raised a glass of firefox wine and poured it into his mouth. He saw a graceful woman walking towards him. In the next moment, the woman lay between Han Fei and Joeen Ling. Her lips were bright red, and she said gracefully, "Can I have a drink?" Han Fei shrugged. Of course, beautiful women always have privileges. Joeen Ling frowned. "No, go away." The girl giggled. "Yo, you're quite hot-tempered. Little brother, are you new to the Scattered Stars Island? You look quite handsome, and your clothes are clean. You've never drunk before. Can I play with you?" Joeen Ling said to Han Fei telepathically, "What do I do? She's wearing too little, and I don't know her." Han Fei chuckled and replied, "Fairy, welcome to the human world." Joeen Ling frowned. Seeing that Han Fei ignored her, she panicked a little. Bam! To Han Fei's astonishment, Joeen Ling waved her hand and slapped the man away. Han Fei's mouth was wide open. "That works?" Speechless, Han Fei grabbed Joeen Ling's arm and said, "Let's go. Let's run." "Little bastard, how dare you hit me? Did I piss you off?" The woman seemed to be very familiar with the situation here. At this moment, many soul warriors and armorists stood up. They were all tall and strong. Someone sneered. "Bro, there's no rule to hit someone for no reason, is there?" Someone snorted heavily. "Son of a bitch, Miss Hong has been slapped away by you. Do you want to die?" Someone was already holding a big axe in his hand. "So what if you have 6 stars? I'm also a 6-star. If you don't give me an explanation today, don't even think about leaving this place." Joeen Ling was about to extend her hand to seal him, when Han Fei quickly grabbed her hand and said telepathically, "It's our fault. Let's run, let's run." Pa! A whip appeared in Miss Hong's hand at some point, and she whipped the ground. "I knew you were stupid, but I didn't know you were so stupid. 5,000 high-quality pearls. Otherwise, I won't let this go." Han Fei grinned. "I've hit you, but you've gone too far by extorting me. Today, I'm going out. Why don't you try to stop me? You've hit someone and you're still so arrogant? Get him." Han Fei suddenly punched out, and the 2 armorists who were charging at him were sent flying. They crashed through the club and flew into the river outside. "Son of a bitch, you really dare to hit me? Brothers, let's go." Bam. A moment later, Han Fei dragged Joeen Ling and disappeared into the crowd. After taking a few turns and finding a place with no one around, Han Fei stepped on an array under his feet, and the stealth array and the breath-concealing array covered their traces. Joeen Ling blinked her eyes and said, "Should I not have attacked?" Looking at her aggrieved look, Han Fei heaved a long sigh. Fine, go back, go back. Anyway, congratulations, you've seen the life of a normal person today." First update. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 855. Side. Han Fei lay down on his bed, wondering if it was a wrong choice to take Joeen Ling out. In any case, he had to find something for her to comprehend on her own. As long as he didn't follow her all day, that was better than anything else. Han Fei heaved a long sigh and murmured, "The infinite ocean, the sea expansion realm." He remembered what Granny Yin said. There was no king in the 1,000-star city. That at least meant one thing. There were venerables in the 1,000-star city. But even if it was an Exalt realm expert, there was still a gap of 3 realms between them. Forget it. I'd better become a peak-level hidden fisher first. Han Fei stopped thinking about it and sat up straight. He had taken so many staff techniques from Zhang Xuanyu, so he should be able to fuse them into a good staff technique. Fuse. A great amount of spiritual energy was disappearing. After 100 minutes, a combat skill named true solution to rod techniques, popped up in Han Fei's mind. Battle skill? Han Fei was surprised. The name didn't sound special at all. True solution of staff techniques, heaven level, divine quality, introduction, compiled from 13 staff combat skills. It contains the essentials of many staff techniques and is compiled into a book. Comprehending this book would allow one to comprehend the essence of staff techniques. Derivation, unknown deduction cost, 0/60, 000 note. Different people have different understandings of the essence. Han Fei didn't immediately study the true solution of rod techniques. How could the essence be so easily comprehended? Besides, he was not in a hurry. Anyway, he couldn't use the embroidery needle now. Han Fei was more interested in the Triple Palace Heavy Seal. Now that he had learned it, he could use it now. After a while, Han Fei's spiritual energy reserve had dropped to 60 million. A seal technique called the 9 Mansions Dragon Seal appeared in his mind. 9 Palace Dragon Seal, Heaven-Level Divine Quality, Introduction, complements the 9 Palaces Heavenly Divination Formation technique and can borrow the power of the 9 Palaces star positions to break through the void. Borrowing the power of the star position, he transformed it into a boundless book. This was the heavy imprint technique. When the imprint descended, it was as if a mountain was collapsing. When it was imprinted, there would be dragon cries that could shake one's soul. Derivation, unknown deduction cost, 0/60, 000 note. Reprint is required, the heavier the better. Han Fei's eyes lit up. This is good. It's related to arrays, so the seal breaking through the void can directly break through the void with a big seal. Passing through the barrier of the void, they transformed into giant waves, mountains, and strange rocks that smashed down. It must be very painful. Han Fei couldn't help but exclaim. However, with this seal technique, he didn't know if a sneak attack would work. However, no matter what, the description of being able to shake one's soul was no different from being struck by a stick. The next morning, hardly had Han Fei removed the fog array when he saw Jiuyin Ling standing at the door. Han Fei immediately felt a headache, but he held back his temper and asked, "What's wrong?" Jiuyin Ling said solemnly, "I've thought about it. You're right. I plan to leave the Scattered Stars Island and live in a village for a year before I come back." Han Fei was overjoyed and grinned from ear to ear. "That's great. Little 9. You still have a lot of awareness. Let me tell you, only by seeing the vicissitudes of the world can you truly comprehend the meaning of entering the world. Only with this level of understanding can you come into being, right? Congratulations, you're finally enlightened." Jiuyin Ling slightly glared at Han Fei. "What's the name of your village?" Han Fei was stunned for a moment and had a bad feeling. "The Heavenly Water Village." "What's wrong?" Jiuyin Ling said seriously, "Okay, I'll go to the Heavenly Water Village." Cough, cough, Han Fei swallowed and said, "Why do you want to go to the Heavenly Water Village?" "Let me tell you, our Heavenly Water Village is actually not good. Some villages are 17 or 18 times better than ours." A hint of slyness flashed in Jiuyin Ling's eyes. "That's why I want to go. I can have a better experience. Let's go to the Heavenly Water Village." Han Fei took a deep breath. "However, on second thought, I'll go. Anyway, I'm not in the Heavenly Water Village. It's up to you as long as you don't follow me." He couldn't afford to offend such a genius, so he could only avoid her. Jiuyin Ling took a deep breath and said, "Wait for me to come back." Han Fei nodded like a chicken pecking rice. Yes. No problem, no problem." Jiuyin Ling looked at her yard and then at Han Fei. Finally, she controlled the fishing boat to take off and leave quietly. "Whew!" Han Fei took a long breath in relief. "She's finally gone." Looking at the sky, Han Fei said casually, "I hope you no longer care about worldly feelings after you're born." Suddenly, Han Fei saw a yellow figure squatting on the wall of his house. Han Fei turned around, only to see that Big Yellow was staring at him with its head tilted and its eyes wide open. Big Yellow asked curiously, "Did you piss her off?" Han Fei said angrily, "What are you talking about? I'm just guiding her to understand the true meaning of life." "Hey, Do cats like eavesdropping? Big Yellow glanced at Han Fei in disdain. Are you going to make breakfast? Han Fei thought for a moment. Without Zhou Ling following him, he was full of energy and said, yes. Hardly had Han Fei said that when another head popped out of the door. It was none other than Qing Chen. As soon as this fellow heard that there was food to eat, he would appear from all directions. After breakfast, Big Yellow asked, are you going fishing? Han Fei shook his head. I'm going to fight. Big Yellow said, then I'm not fishing either. Han Fei was lost for words. Just go fishing. Big Yellow glanced at Han Fei in disdain. The fish will be scared away when you fight. How can you catch them? Han Fei. A moment later, Han Fei shouted, Old Du, I'm here to fight you. Du Jianglu walked out of the house unhurriedly. Are you sure? The rod technique that you learned in one night can't be good. Half a month passed. In the sky. Clang, clang, clang. Two figures collided fiercely in the sky. The two of them were holding rods, but the shadows of the rods were already gone. The air was surging and the clouds were gathering and dispersing. Down below, someone was eating dried fish and asked in confusion, this time, Han Fei has persisted for 100 seconds. Can he still fight? Someone shook his head. This lunatic must be addicted to fighting. However, the improvement of his staff technique was indeed a little too fast. It's rare for him to persist for more than 100 seconds under Old Du's attack. Ning Jingyao was lost for words. This guy doesn't even want to practice with me anymore? Someone laughed. Practice with you? His saber techniques are as good as yours. Why would he want to practice with you? Wu Ming said, he wants to learn swordsmanship. Ning Jingyao glanced at Wu Ming. Forget it. Don't think that he wants to learn swordsmanship from you just because he broke through your 300-meter sword domain a few times. He's just practicing his body technique. All of a sudden, unparalleled shadows of rods appeared in the void. Instantly, Han Fei pierced the void with one hand, and the other end of the rod extended from 100 meters away. Du Jianglu was delighted. Good move. Like a bird, Du Jianglu blocked the rod with his shoulder and waved the long rod in his hand, slapping Han Fei's rod back with a clang. Han Fei took a deep breath and said, that's enough. Let's call it a day. Han Fei and Du Jianglu stopped and looked at the sky far away, where a boat was approaching. On the boat, Zhang Xuanyu looked at Han Fei in shock and then at Du Jianglu. Zhang Xuanyu asked in surprise, Han Fei, when did you learn my instant mystic spear? However, it's not good enough for you. Let me do it. After saying that, Zhang Xuanyu jumped out, and with a whoosh, a pair of white wings spread out. Holding a long rod in one hand, Zhang Xuanyu looked at Du Jianglu and said, Han Fei's move is not good enough. Let me do it. Du Jianglu grinned. Good. I was wondering why Han Fei suddenly came up with such a move. It turns out to be someone else's battle technique. Han Fei asked in surprise, didn't you lead a team to the sea? When did you go to the Wind Sky Canyon and take off your wings? Lu Renkuang and Luo Xiaobai flew close. Lu Renkuang snorted. See, I was only gone for 3 days. Zhang Xuanyu said with a smile, I can't get the wind god pearl anyway. A pair of wings with a wingspan of 13 meters is enough. Han Fei asked in surprise, why didn't you come to me? I could have helped you. Zhang Xuanyu smiled. Don't you know that no wind sky wings will approach you if you have wings? Well, as he talked, Zhang Xuanyu looked at Du Jianglu and said, just one spear. Du Jianglu nodded and said unconcernedly, okay. Han Fei flew aside. Naturally, he wasn't as good at rod techniques as Zhang Xuanyu. The guy had never practiced anything but rod techniques in his life. Even the instant mystic spear was a derivative of the rod technique. Zhang Xuanyu, however, looked very serious. Han Fei keenly noticed that 80% of the spiritual energy had been gathered on his hands. Du Jianglu smiled casually. The one-move challenge was more exciting than fighting with Han Fei. At this moment he was full of fighting will. Holding the rod with both hands, he extended one foot and slightly bent the other. Swoosh! Han Fei's eyes constricted, as he found that half of the rod was gone the moment Zhang Xuanyu exerted his strength. He quickly looked at Du Jianglu, only to discover that the guy's rod was only half out and had just touched Zhang Xuanyu's spear. Du Jiangliu's face changed greatly, and he was flung back. Down below, Wu Ming suddenly opened his eyes. That was fast. Ning Jingyao's eyes widened too. That was a fast attack. Yu Shire remarked, that was really fast. I'm so envious. Yu exclaimed, that was really fast. Du Jianglu glanced at the blood on his shoulder and looked at Zhang Xuanyu solemnly. What's the name of that attack? Zhang Xuanyu retracted his rod and grinned. Du Jianglu slightly bowed at Zhang Xuanyu solemnly. He had benefited a lot from the attack. Han Fei's eyes glittered. Momentary time? Why did he feel like he had seen it before? All of a sudden, Han Fei looked at Zhang Xuanyu. Could it be that this kid has comprehended the true meaning of time? Second update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 856. Han Fei's home. Han Fei looked at Zhang Xuanyu curiously. He keenly sensed that there was something wrong with the momentary time just now. Having worked for Du Jianglu for half a month, he knew old Du's capabilities very well. Han Fei basically used the air-breaking strike, plus the speed of the instant mystic spear. He had exerted his speed to the extreme. However, Du Jianglu would always beat them back when they were 1 meter away from him. It suggested that Du Jianglu had absolute control over the 1 meter range before him. In the end, this kind of control was broken by Zhang Xuanyu's rod. That feeling was a little like when the time arowana had reverse time. Han Fei stared at Zhang Xuanyu and asked, is it related to the abyssal chasm? Zhang Xuanyu smiled casually. I knew you could see it. This is also something I realized recently. I found that the abyssal chasm may not only have a space problem, but also a time problem. Just now, I was only able to slightly delay the time in a very small space. Han Fei's eyelids twitched. That's it. Zhang Xuanyu snorted. What else do you think? If I had really controlled time, that guy wouldn't have been able to touch my stick. Han Fei realized that it did make sense. If Zhang Xuanyu could control the time within a certain range, Du Jianglu wouldn't be able to beat him at all. Glancing at Luo Xiaobai and Lu Renkuang, Han Fei couldn't help but ask, is everything done? Luo Xiaobai nodded. Yes. Zhang Xuanyu said that we should go to the Sea of Pearls together. Han Fei looked at Lu Renkuang. Why are you still a 5-star? The fat on Lu Renkuang's face shivered. I didn't really go out to fight. I have enough points now. I just need to kill more sea demons. Han Fei chuckled. All 3 of us can lead the team anyway. You're the best choice. However, I'm told that there are no sea demons in the Sea of Pearls. Luo Xiaobai said, there are occasional wars. After all, the sea demons use high-quality pearls as their currency, just like us. They've ambushed the Sea of Pearls more than once. However, this time, it has nothing to do with the sirens. It said that there was a violent tremor in the Sea of Pearls, followed by some strange flames. This has been going on for some time, but we haven't found the cause yet. Han Fei was surprised. It turned out to be true. Han Fei's eyes lit up. Could it be a treasure trove or a relic? Luo Xiaobai shook her head. I don't know. Many people in Central City went to the Sea of Pearls to find out the reason. Lu Renkuang curled his lips and said, so many people couldn't find it. Maybe there's nothing here. In my opinion, the Sea of Pearls is full of pearl divers and shells. Even if there are ruins, they must be bad ones. Zhang Xuanyu interrupted, that's not necessarily true. We'll only know what the mystic realms and ruins are like when we go there. The 5 of us. Suddenly, Zhang Xuanyu shut up and looked at Han Fei. He subconsciously said 5 people, but he immediately remembered that Xia Shaochan was not here now. Wouldn't it be a blow to Han Fei if he said 5 people? Luo Xiaobai and Lu Renkuang also looked at Han Fei, who smiled casually. Why are you looking at me? So be it if you're missing someone. Mystic realms have to be explored, treasures have to be found, and relics have to be fought over. Luo Xiaobai suddenly said, I heard that you and Zhou Yinling. Luo Xiaobai's eyes were a little unfriendly and interrogative. Han Fei simply waved his hand. That's not true. I have nothing to do with Jiuyin Ling. I just treated everybody in the Empyrean waterfall to a meal. She became a law enforcer after the meal. What does that have to do with me? Han Fei paused for a moment. Also, she's been tricked away by me. She won't be back anytime soon. Who? Zhang Xuanyu patted Han Fei's shoulder. That's fine. If you want to find a girl, go to a nightclub. Jiuyin Ling isn't easy to deal with. Han Fei kicked him. Do you think I'm like you? Luo Xiaobai nodded. That's good. Are we leaving now or some other time? Suddenly, Luo Xiaobai looked at the corner of the wall and extended her vines to a yellow furry thing. Chilla. The vines were shattered, and Big Yellow proudly stepped forward and glanced at Han Fei, not caring about the vines at all. Han Fei, are you going fishing? Han Fei said with a smile. No, I'm going to the Sea of Pearls later. You can take your time fishing. But then I'm going. Big Yellow leaped and disappeared from Han Fei's yard. Luo Xiaobai asked in surprise, What's that? Lu Renkuang smacked his lips. It can talk, but it looks rather special and fleshy. Can it? No. Han Fei looked at Lu Renkuang speechlessly. You want to eat everything. He said, Big Yellow can rub you against the ground. Lu Renkuang asked in shock, So strong? Zhang Xuanyu said, It's rather cute. Han Fei said with a smile, Big Yellow is a cat, a creature that lives on the land. Also, it's a powerful creature equal to a law enforcer. This? Lu Renkuang shivered. Thankfully, he didn't say whether or not it could be eaten, or he might have been eaten by the cat. Han Fei rose. Let's go. Since we're going, let's set off immediately. If we don't find anything wrong with the Sea of Pearls, we can go to other places. The Scattered Stars Island is already boring. Zhang Xuanyu licked his lips and said, I'd like to take a look at the Transverse Mountain. Han Fei tilted his head and looked at Zhang Xuanyu. Do you want to be locked in the Empyrean waterfall like senior brother Dashuai? Zhang Xuanyu smiled awkwardly. Then forget it. The Sea of Pearls was located to the north of the Scattered Stars Island. The whole area was within the range of the Sea of Pearls. Even during the total war on the Scattered Stars Island, the Sea of Pearls was a place that sea demons were reluctant to approach. First of all, the creatures there weren't strong, and the sea demons couldn't control them to attack. Also, the Sea of Pearls was the place where human beings and experts appeared most frequently. At the center of the sea, there was always a big ship that seemed to be embedded on the seabed, and experts were stationed day and night. The sea demons had attacked the Sea of Pearls before, but they suffered heavy casualties every time. According to Luo Xiaobai, a sea demon as strong as Blue Feather was killed in the most brutal battle. The sea demons also found that they couldn't make any profit from the Sea of Pearls. After all, they didn't know anything about social economics. They only knew that human beings collected high-quality pearls as money and couldn't arouse their desire to attack. Also, there were too many people patrolling the Sea of Pearls. Those people wandered around the Sea of Pearls day and night for 3 things. One was to check if there were any traces of the sea demons. One was to check if there was anything wrong with the identity of the pearl divers. The other was to check if the temporary identity of the non-pearl divers had expired when they came to the Sea of Pearls. To enter the Sea of Pearls, one had to pay 5,000 high-quality pearls a day. During the period, whatever one got in the Sea of Pearls belonged to them. The place to pay the high-quality pearls was on the big ship at the center of the Sea of Pearls. At this moment, hardly had Han Fei and his companions entered the Sea of Pearls when they saw 2 boats sailing on the surface of the sea. Someone was scanning them with their senses. Then Han Fei and his companions noticed that other boats were passing by and sensed where they were all the time. Luo Xiaobai said, The surveillance on the Sea of Pearls is very strict. Both the boats that are sailing on the surface of the sea and the pearl divers will report us if they find anything wrong with our identities. In Han Fei's perception, the deepest part of the Sea of Pearls was no more than 1,000 meters. There were plenty of corals and algae at the bottom of the sea. The colorful ocean world could be seen clearly here. There was no simple beach here. It was more like an enormous coral forest. It was filled with a large number of red and yellow staghorn corals, purple spherical foam corals, dark yellow flying disc corals, green mollusk corals, kaleidoscopic corals that looked like snowflakes, and all kinds of brain corals. For the first time, Han Fei realized that so many strange corals could grow in the same area. With just a casual scan, he discovered as many as 20 different types of corals that differed greatly from each other. All kinds of common fish below level 30 lived here in harmony. Although the food chain was complicated, the level of the sea creatures was generally low, which was probably because human beings had occupied this place for a long time. Only on the sandy ground between the corals could there be shells several meters long. However, some of the shells were lying horizontally, and some were lying vertically. Even their heads were facing upward. Han Fei saw that some pearl divers knocked the shells, and then some of the shells opened their mouths. The pearl divers would pick up 1 or 2 pearls from the shells. Then, they would clean up the shells and throw a few grains of sand at them. Lu Renkuang asked in surprise, "Why are they so obedient?" Luo Xiaobai said, "It's a common understanding between human beings and the spiritual energy muscles. Human beings will not hurt them and will even clean them regularly. Naturally, they will get the pearls in their mouths. However, if it's a clean muscle that has already been taken, it will attack you if you repeatedly hit it." Han Fei looked at Luo Xiaobai. "You're talking as if you've been here before." Luo Xiaobai smiled. "I've read all the files on the Sea of Pearls." "Okay, little 9 won't show up anytime soon. I have my own plans. Don't worry, everybody. A storm is coming. Please look forward to the following story." End of this chapter. Chapter 857. No matter how fast the wind god boat was, it could only cover 60,000 kilometers in a day. Han Fei regretted that he didn't carve all kinds of speed arrays on the wind god boat after he grasped the arrays. However, it wasn't slow at all. It took them 2.5 days to reach the big ship at the center of the Sea of Pearls. It was more like a fortress at the center of the sea than a ship. It wasn't in the shape of a ship at all. Below, it was an indestructible mountain that seemed to have been nailed to the bottom of the ocean. 300 meters above the sea, there were stairs, corridors, and many windows. The higher they went, the more complicated the structure would be. It was like a small city had been built on a ship-shaped mountain. Luo Xiaobai said, "The pearl divers like to call this place the Pearl Divers Port. This place has already become a small city. It's not as rich as the Scattered Stars Island, but it's not bad. Also, because this is the Sea of Pearls, the source of wealth for the Scattered Stars Island, the Thousand Star City, and the 36 towns, large transactions often happen here. Therefore, there are often extremely wealthy people who stay here." Han Fei's eyes glittered. "Rich people?" Luo Xiaobai glanced at him. "Don't get any ideas. Because this place is very rich, it has all the facilities, and rare items are often auctioned here. You don't have to worry about any accidents during the auctions here. That's because at least 10 law enforcers are stationed in the Pearl Divers Port at any time." Everybody gasped and looked at Luo Xiaobai. "Where are we going now?" Luo Xiaobai said, "To pay the fee and go to sea. We can't dive for pearls without permission. There's nothing interesting about the Pearl Divers Port, except that the buildings are different. The facilities here are the same as those on the Scattered Stars Island." Han Fei asked, "What about the auction? When will it be held?" Luo Xiaobai said, "I'm not sure. I've only read the files, and it might be held on the register. However, if there is an auction, it'll be posted at the registration office." A moment later, led by Luo Xiaobai, everybody set foot on a departure port. In fact, they didn't need to search for it. As long as they walked on the road to the departure port, they could see the steeple-shaped building about 3,000 meters away with their naked eyes. Apart from the building, the rest of the place was a plaza. Luo Xiaobai explained, "The registration office has 2 functions. One is the handover service for pearl divers, and the other is the issuance of temporary sea passes. Recently, everyone knew that there was something wrong with the Sea of Pearls. Therefore, there are a lot of people who want to explore this place. When they walked to the registration office, Han Fei said, "What if the temporary pass expires? Wouldn't it be troublesome if I had to keep coming here to renew the fee?" Luo Xiaobai said, "The temporary card I gave you is white. Once it expired, it would turn black. At that time, as long as you are in the Sea of Pearls, someone will come looking for you, and you can pay on the spot." Han Fei nodded. "It's really expensive. 5,000 high-quality pearls a day. Isn't that too expensive?" Lu Renquang nodded quickly. "That's true. It's too expensive. We need to catch more marine creatures." Luo Xiaobai said, "No. The Sea of Pearls was filled with low-level creatures. Because of the diversity of species here, it's easier for the spiritual energy muscles to hunt and breed high-quality pearls. If you hunt them randomly, you'll be fined if you're caught." Han Fei and the others were all surprised. Was there such a rule? Han Fei thought for a moment and said, "Forget it. Speaking of which, once the temporary pass expires, they'll know it immediately, right? Also, they'll be able to locate us?" Luo Xiaobai nodded. "That's right. The Sea of Pearls is not small. We'll stay here for 20 days. If we don't find anything wrong in 20 days, we'll leave." Han Fei nodded. "I agree." Lu Renquang remarked with mixed feelings, 400,000 high-quality pearls, that's all? Zhang Xuanyu said lazily, "If so many people find out that there's something special about this place, it'll be worth more than 400,000. But I suspect that they're just trying to trick us out of our money." Luo Xiaobai shook her head and smiled casually. "Not yet." A moment later, on the way to the registration office, Han Fei found that most of the people in the crowd were only hanging fishers. Among them, there were quite a number of people with incomplete bodies. Some were missing an arm, some were missing half an arm, some had leg problems, and some were wearing masks. In fact, other than broken limbs that couldn't be regrown, many injuries could be healed. Otherwise, why would they need spirit gatherers? Luo Xiaobai said, "Most of them are from the battlefield. Most of these people are disabled, which means that even spirit gatherers can't do anything about their injuries. They don't have the money to hire stronger spirit gatherers or alchemists to buy medicine and see a doctor. So, they come to be pearl divers to make money. After they recover from their injuries, most people will not continue to be pearl divers." Finally, he walked to the registration office. Han Fei looked at the wall. However, there was no notice of the auction here. So, Han Fei entered the registration office. There was a hubbub of voices in the hall. Some of the reception windows were for pearl divers. The way to distinguish pearl divers was actually very simple. He only needed to see if there were any disabled people in the crowd, and they were basically pearl divers. Han Fei said, "Hello, for temporary waist tags for 20 days. The waiter said, "Please pay 400,000 high-quality pearls." When Han Fei and the others paid, they attracted a lot of attention. Luo Xiaobai and the others might be too outstanding. Someone in the team of pearl divers nearby asked in surprise, "Are people here to find the secrets of the Sea of Pearls again?" Someone slightly shook his head. "How many groups of people have come? Are they really unwilling to give up? Besides, the fireballs are not interesting at all." Someone said, "Idiot, did you see their waist tags? They are 6-star slaughterers, and only one is a 5-star blood guard. You can be slapped to death by that slap." The man smiled. "What are you scared of? This is the Pearl Divers Port. Nothing has ever happened to anyone here." Han Fei overheard their conversation just now. He suddenly turned his head and looked at the two of them. "Brothers, do the fireballs you mentioned appear often?" Hearing Han Fei's sudden question, the two of them immediately shivered. One of them said, "My lord, the fireballs don't appear a lot. They are only discovered when we are picking pearls. But they only exist for a while before disappearing." Han Fei nodded. "What do the fireballs look like?" The pearl diver quickly said, "They're like flying disc corals. However, they're fatter than flying disc corals. Whenever they appear, there are always 3 or 4 of them in a row. They're blue and purple and quite bright. You can see them from a distance." The other person added, "Many people have seen the blue and purple flames. Some people observed them from a close distance, and some even touched them with their hands. However, they found that they were not hot at all. Han Fei asked in surprise, "Oh, so, you've all seen them?" The two of them nodded. In the Sea of Pearls, almost all the pearl divers saw them after the earthquake. Then they became fewer and fewer. Now they're barely seen. However, the mysterious flames are not the most famous. Han Fei smiled and asked, "Oh, then what is it?" The man glanced at Han Fei and said in a low voice, "My lord, that's a secret." Han Fei glanced at the door, and the two of them smiled and soon followed Han Fei to the door. Han Fei asked, "That depends on how much your intelligence is worth." One of them chuckled and said, "My lord, the Pearl Divers Port is not announced to the public. That's because many pearl divers have mysteriously gone missing recently." Zhang Xuanyu's eyes glittered. That makes sense. Otherwise, nobody would have paid much attention to a few fires after the earthquake, right? Luo Xiaobai looked at them and said, 800 high-quality pearls for each of you." The two of them didn't think it was too little and accepted the money with a smile. It was just an outdated intelligence, and they had earned 200 high-quality pearls. Why not? Han Fei looked at Luo Xiaobai and the others. It seems that there are indeed secrets. However, we seem to be late. Han Fei suddenly remembered that Luo Xiaobai mentioned something when he just came out of the Scattered Stars Island. However, Luo Xiaobai said it casually back then, so Han Fei didn't think much of it. It seemed that there were indeed secrets hidden in the Sea of Pearls. As the four of them walked out, Luo Xiaobai said, "We're indeed a bit late. Somebody must have been here to investigate. However, I'm thinking that if your little white fish is capable of tracking, maybe we still have a chance." Zhang Xuanyu and Lu Renkuang nodded quickly. They trusted Xiaobai very much. Han Fei chuckled. "Then let's give it a try. If we can't find anything, we can consider this a vacation. After all, we've been on the Scattered Stars Island for a long time, and we haven't had a chance to gather together. This time, let's just treat it as an adventure." Zhang Xuanyu and Lu Renkuang looked at Han Fei at the same time. Zhang Xuanyu said, "Hey, you were the one who was busy, weren't you? You were busy refining and then you stayed outside for such a long time." Han Fei chuckled. "It's not too late to start now. After all, there are still more than 2 years before we leave the Scattered Stars Island. That's enough for us to explore a lot of places." Suddenly, Han Fei's eyes cramped. He saw an acquaintance, Jiang Tong. When Han Fei saw Jiang Tong happened to see Han Fei too. This was a person with a very low sense of existence. When they worked together to cheat money in the Wind Thunder Town. When they worked together to make money, this Jiang Tong played a great role. Later, when he first came to the Scattered Stars Island, Han Fei also saw Jiang Tong in the Battle of the Heaven-Human Strait. Then, Han Fei didn't see him again. But at this moment he found that Jiang Tong was already a hidden fisher, and his waist tag was the same as his, also a 6-star. At this moment, Han Fei suddenly realized that this person was not simple. He could get a 6-star quietly, faster than Lu Renkuang. Besides, few people knew him. This made Han Fei quite curious. Seeing Han Fei, Jiang Tong looked away and was about to go to the registration hall. Han Fei immediately shouted, "Why are you running? Come on, long time no see. Shouldn't we catch up?" Jiang Tong looked back with a sad face. He didn't expect to meet Han Fei at this time. Jiang Tong smiled and said, "Oh, what a coincidence, what a coincidence. Are you pearl divers?" Han Fei replied with a fake smile, "Do you think the four of us look like pearl divers?" Jiang Tong glanced at the corner of his mouth. First update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 858. At this moment, on the crowded square of the Pearl Divers Port, Han Fei and the others were all looking at Jiang Tong with a smile, which made his blood freeze. "Good-oo." Jiang Tong swallowed and said, "Well, I'm actually here for the auction." Han Fei was about to speak, when Luo Xiaobai suddenly said, "That explains a lot. Han Fei, we're busy. Let's not catch up yet, shall we?" Han Fei was slightly surprised too, as were Lu Renkuang and Zhang Xuanyu. That wasn't Luo Xiaobai's style. Hearing Luo Xiaobai's words, Jiang Tong also said, "Well, Brother Han, let's talk later." Han Fei patted his shoulder with a smile. "But I don't have time to chat with you today. See you later." A moment later, seeing that Han Fei and the others flew away on the boat, Jiang Tong took a long breath in relief and turned around. He did not go to the registration hall of the Pearl Divers port at all. On a regular boat on the surface of the sea, Han Fei and Lu Renkuang asked almost at the same time, "What did you find?" Luo Xiaobai asked, "Is there something wrong with the guy just now? I remember that I met him somewhere." Lu Renkuang scratched his belly. "You don't remember?" At this moment, Han Fei's face slightly changed too. "There's something wrong with this guy. The first time I met him was outside of the undersea city in the level 3 fishery. At that time, he was rather mediocre. Although he was a heavenly talent, he felt that he was too weak. Later, I met him once in the Wind Thunder Town. Jiang Tong must have been quite strong at that time. The third time was in the Heavenly Human Canyon." Luo Xiaobai nodded. "Yes, I met him in the battle in the Heavenly Human Canyon. Normally speaking, it's not a problem for him to advance into a hidden fissure. However, I sensed a slight threat just now." Zhang Xuanyu and Lu Renkuang, however, were slightly surprised. Jiang Tong couldn't have made Luo Xiaobai feel threatened unless he was hiding a lot of his strength. Han Fei thought to himself that he didn't feel threatened at all, but he did some calculations just now. What he wanted to know was whether or not he would meet Jiang Tong in the future. In the end, it turned out to be nothing. There was not even the slightest bit of room for prediction. Then, something was wrong. He couldn't even calculate that? Zhang Xuanyu clapped his hands. "Something is wrong with this guy. Moreover, we just saw that there are no auctions in the near future." Lu Renkuang nodded quickly. "We can guard against him. What if he has the same goal as us?" Luo Xiaobai said casually, "The Pearl Divers port is small, but it has a lot of business here. Perhaps, this person has other matters to attend to." Han Fei smiled. "It doesn't matter. We have 20 days anyway. In the past, my daughter had remembered his scent. Just now, I slapped him once, and he was punished again." With that said, Han Fei's eyebrows flashed, and he said to Little White, "Smell that guy just now. Once he is more than 100 kilometers away, chase after him." Lu Renkuang suddenly said, "If we're waiting for him, why don't we make a hot pot?" After half a day. Luo Xiaobai frowned. This was the 100th time someone had scanned them with their perception. He had to admit that he had traveled hundreds of thousands of kilometers and spent 400,000 high-quality pearls. In the end, the four of them were eating hot pot on the ship, which was a little ridiculous. Only Lu Renkuang was eating happily. At this moment, he slurped a huge piece of fish and asked, "Are you all not going to eat?" Zhang Xuanyu said angrily, "Just eat, fatty." Luo Xiaobai said, "I've eaten too much. I'm a light eater right now." Han Fei picked up a huge piece of fish and put it into his mouth. Sometimes he counted his fingers. Suddenly, Little White moved. It popped its head out of the water and swam in one direction. Zhang Xuanyu's eyes flashed. "I'll control the boat." Luo Xiaobai said, "He finally went to sea in less than 6 hours. It means that whatever it is, his target must be at sea." Han Fei smiled. "Who cares? If it's related to treasure troves, it'll be a coincidence. If it's not, we'll just pretend that we ran into each other again." About an hour later, a figure finally appeared in Han Fei's perception. "Stop." Han Fei suddenly stopped him. Very soon, Han Fei discovered that Jiang Tong was not alone. There were 2 pearl divers in the water. Also, to Han Fei's surprise, he saw 4 clusters of blue and purple flames in the water. "Is it a coincidence?" Luo Xiaobai looked at Han Fei curiously. "What's wrong? I can't sense them." Han Fei said, 50 kilometers away. Zhang Xuanyu exclaimed, "Han Fei, your perception range has reached 50 kilometers?" Han Fei thought to himself, "I'm afraid that you'll be scared if I tell you." Han Fei said casually, "I found those blue and purple flames." Luo Xiaobai asked in surprise. You found them so easily? Luo Xiaobai was stunned for a moment. A coincidence? Wait, what else did you find? Han Fei's lips curled. Jiang Tong, 2 pearl divers. Lu Yi and Wang Qian used to work in the Guild of Fishers. They often fished near the sea. Due to an accident, they were attacked by inferior manfish. 8 members of a 10-person team were killed, and only the 2 of them were left. Although they were still alive, they were heavily wounded. One of Lu Ye's arms was gone, and half of Wang Qian's foot was cut off. Lu Yi said telepathically, Old Wang, we've collected 800 pearls today. In the past, we could have collected 1,000 pearls in such a long time, right? Wang Qian smiled. I've only collected 200 high-quality pearls and more than 200 low-quality pearls. Forget it, I'm still short of 50. Let's have a drink after I collect 800. Lu Yi was amused. Great minds think alike. Just as the 2 of them finished speaking, they suddenly heard a few gurgle sounds. They thought that it was a big bubble floating to the surface of the water. Lu Yi subconsciously raised his head. Hey, Old Wang, purple flames. Wang Qian quickly jumped over a few coral reefs and found 4 clusters of purple flames floating dozens of meters away. Lu Yi was holding the coral and looking up. Wang Qian asked in surprise, the quake happened a long time ago. Why are there still purple flames? Lu Yi said with a smile, I don't know. Look at the 4 clusters. They're lined up neatly. Where are they going? Wang Qian snorted. I don't know. Just follow them for a while. Let's pick pearls and look around. Logically speaking, it should dissipate in a while. Lu Yi collected another 2 high-quality pearls and put them away. But let's watch for a while. About half an hour later, Wang Qian said, I've collected 800 pearls. Forget it. I don't want to do this anymore. Let's go have a drink. Lu Yi asked curiously, Old Wang, why do you think the purple flames haven't disappeared yet? Wang Qian swam to it. Why should I care about it? I'll slap it out. As he spoke, Wang Qian slapped a cluster of purple flames. Wang Qian seemed to be frozen after the slap, and his eyes became glazed. Lu Yi chuckled. Keep pretending. You think I've never slapped one before? I've even put my hand in it before. While speaking, Lu Yi also swam over with a swish. He smiled and pushed Wang Qian. However, in the next second, he saw a ball of purple flames suddenly reflected in his eyes. Han Fei saw this scene clearly from a distance. In the next moment, he saw those balls of purple fire extinguish with a puff. Jiang Tong, on the other hand, jumped off the boat and swam to them. When Jiang Tong swam to them, he took out a pearl and showed it to them. Then, the 2 of them regained their senses. As for Jiang Tong, he simply controlled the boat to fly away after he boarded. Luo Xiaobai asked, What's going on? Should we chase him? Han Fei suddenly said, Jiang Tong ran away. Zhang Xuanyu turned around and was about to chase him on the boat. Han Fei said in a hurry, No, wait. I found something. Luo Xiaobai looked at Han Fei in confusion. What's wrong? Han Fei thought for a moment. Let's go to the sea. I'll set up a stealth array and a breath-concealing array on you. Let's not chase Jiang Tong but the pearl divers. The pearl divers? Luo Xiaobai was briefly stunned, but she nodded. Han Fei had his reasons to chase the pearl divers. In the Sea of Pearls, although there were frequent patrols, they weren't very strong. Those people would send out alarms when they found a dangerous target. However, Han Fei's temporary pass hadn't expired, and he had hidden himself, so few people paid attention to him. Besides, the slightly stronger people were also at the edge of the Sea of Pearls. In the Sea of Pearls, few experts would spend a long time perceiving them. A moment later, when Han Fei was only a few hundred meters away from the 2 pearl divers, Luo Xiaobai asked in surprise, Is there something wrong with them? Lu Renquang was also confused. They're just regular pearl divers. Zhang Xuanyu said lazily, Han Fei, I believe you. There's definitely something wrong with them. Han Fei tilted his head and looked at him. Why are you so sure? Zhang Xuanyu said, It's because I trust my brother. Han Fei rolled his eyes. However, he still told the two of them about what he had just seen. After hearing it, Zhang Xuanyu asked in surprise, "Didn't you say that the fire wouldn't hurt anyone?" Han Fei sneered. "It won't hurt anyone, but it can make them lost." Luo Xiaobai shook her head. "That's not right. If the purple fire can make people lost, what was the meaning of the pearl that Jiang Tong showed them?" Han Fei speculated, "That's why I want to follow them instead of Jiang Tong. I estimate that the purple fire is only temporary. Many people may be lost, but they'll recover very soon. Naturally, they won't think that there's anything wrong with the purple fire. But what if they're completely lost?" Han Fei suddenly looked at Zhang Xuanyu and said, "Do you remember the blue fish in the abyssal chasm?" Zhang Xuanyu's eyelids shivered, and he said solemnly, "Are you saying that the pearl in Jiang Tong's hand can make people completely lost?" Luo Xiaobai added, "Is Jiang Tong lost himself too?" Chapter 859. Luo Xiaobai's question piqued Han Fei's curiosity. That's right. The two of them must have been bewitched, but they were still picking pearls. Although the frequency of their harvesting had decreased, their behavior did not arouse any suspicions. However, Han Fei heard their conversation just now. So, Han Fei couldn't help but be suspicious. At this moment, Han Fei couldn't help but say, "Keep following me. I'll pretend to be someone else and greet them." Han Fei thought to himself, "I'm really lucky to run into an acquaintance the moment I arrived at the Pearl Diver's port." As it happened, there was something wrong with the acquaintance. And the problem happened to be related to the purpose of his trip. A moment later, Han Fei changed his clothes and face and blocked Wang Qian and Lu Ye's way, as if he were searching for something. Very soon, the two of them had picked pearls all the way here. When they saw Han Fei, they were stunned for a moment and then tried to avoid him. After all, Han Fei's identity as a slaughterer made them very nervous. Seeing them, Han Fei's lips curled. Why didn't they use their senses? If they had sensed him earlier, they would have avoided him sooner. Why did they not avoid him until they were dozens of meters away? Han Fei couldn't help but ask them telepathically, "Hey, have you heard of anyone collecting black pearls around here?" Lu Yi replied, "Sir, I've never heard of it." Wang Qian was slightly stunned too. Then he shook his head and said no. Han Fei pretended to nod and ignored the two of them, swimming in another direction. After Han Fei swam 30 kilometers away, Lu Yi and Wang Qian began to speed up. A moment later, Han Fei returned to Luo Xiaobai and Lu Yi and said clearly, "These two people have been bewitched. If they hadn't activated their senses, I would have thought that they might have been possessed." Luo Xiaobai asked, "Are you so sure?" Han Fei said with a smile, "Very sure. Although they haven't been possessed, they must have been manipulated. If my guess is correct, it must have been Jiang Tong." Lu Renkuang suggested, "Then why don't we just capture Jiang Tong and ask him? What are we waiting for?" Zhang Xuanyu scoffed. "Idiot, Jiang Tong is not an idiot. Why would he tell you his secrets? Do you have a fish brain?" Luo Xiaobai frowned and said, "Something's not right. What a coincidence. We ran into Jiang Tong as soon as we arrived at the Pearl Diver's port. You happen to know him, and he happens to be related to this purple flame?" Han Fei scratched his head. "I've thought about that too, but I don't understand." Luo Xiaobai said, "Be careful anyway. I keep feeling that something is amiss." Lu Renkuang asked, "Then should we go back?" Zhang Xuanyu smiled casually and said, "Go back? If the four of us can't even defeat Jiang Tong, then we can forget about finding the secret of the Sea of Pearls." Han Fei agreed. "Whether there's a problem or not, let's follow them and take a look." There are tens of millions of mystic realms and countless villains. If we are overcautious and indecisive when encountering something, what's the point of exploring? The few of them discussed and continued to follow. During this time, there were at least a few dozen senses that swept over Lu Yi and Wang Qian. However, the two of them were just pure pearl divers at the moment, so no one felt that they were special. Han Fei and the others had to be careful all the time. Whenever Han Fei sensed the presence of others, he would pause the tracking. He wouldn't continue until other people passed by. Han Fei couldn't help but feel that it would have been great if the hexagon starfish were here. That guy could have easily led them to follow them. They followed and stopped for about 10 hours. When the moon was high in the sky and the stars were everywhere, many pearl divers had returned to the pearl divers port. Lu Yi and Wang Qian suddenly stopped. The two of them simply crouched in the coral reef in a daze. Wait. Gently, there seemed to be a faintly discernible melody suddenly rippling in this dark sea region. Han Fei looked at everybody. Did you hear anything? Zhang Xuanyu asked in surprise. Are you hallucinating? Lu Renkuang shook his head. No. It's very quiet. There's no sound at all. Luo Xiaobai looked at Han Fei in confusion. Although I didn't hear anything, those two people seemed to have stopped. Chilla. Bem. 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 All of a sudden, thousands of purple flames popped up out of nowhere. Han Fei's face changed greatly. Not good. It's an ambush. The moment the purple flames appeared, Luo Xiaobai had tied their waists with vines in case of any accidents, so that they could be ready for battle at any time. The purple flames died out in the blink of an eye. An invisible barrier enshrouded Han Fei and the others. Han Fei and the others didn't move at all. However, when the purple flames were gone, they had left the Sea of Pearls and appeared in an unknown place. Why were they so sure? It was because they found themselves in an enormous cave. What was visible to the naked eye was that the walls of the cave were full of blue and silver stars, as if they had come to the habitat of fireflies. It was very humid here, but there was only a little water and air to breathe. Han Fei even felt that the light here was too dreamy, like the infinite luminous seaweeds in the 10,000 Demon Valley. However, the only color in this place was blue. In the darkness, there was a kind of breathtaking beauty. Han Fei asked solemnly, "Do you know how you got here?" Luo Xiaobai shook her head. "I don't know. It seems to be some sort of teleportation array. Also, perception doesn't work here. I think we've found the secret of the Sea of Pearls." Zhang Xuanyu remarked, "It's true that we can't perceive it. However, the scenery here isn't bad." Han Fei sneered. The more beautiful a person is, the greater unknown horrors are often hidden beneath. Also, our journey was too smooth. It seems that someone intentionally lured us here. Lu Renkuang's face shivered. Jiang Tong. Didn't you recognize him? Luo Xiaobai's eyes were cold. The blue spots of light around are cocoons. Don't alarm them yet. Let's just walk along the road. After all, the two people just now were also surrounded by the purple flames, but we didn't see them. Lu Renkuang shivered and said, "I hate bugs the most." Han Fei said, "Why are you panicking? The bugs aren't a problem, but the secret here is. The pearl divers probably went missing just like that. If we hadn't noticed Jiang Tong's anomaly at the beginning, we wouldn't have suspected anything even if we found the two bewildered guys on the way." The cave was winding and not small at all. After walking for about 3,000 meters, Han Fei and the others all gasped at a corner. "This? Gudu!" Lu Renkuang gasped and said, "I don't think I can use the sky-swallowing technique here." Han Fei felt that his blood was freezing. Thousands of corpses were hanging on the ceiling of the cave in front of them. Looking at the commonly seen broken arms and limbs, everybody knew that they were all pearl divers. The bodies of these pearl divers were covered in pearls. However, the pearls were emitting a faint blue light, which made them look particularly eerie and terrifying. Zhang Xuanyu said in a low voice, "So many pearl divers died here? Nobody noticed them at all?" Luo Xiaobai frowned hard. "That's not right. Some of the bodies are completely dry, and some don't have any flesh. It's obvious that these pearl divers have been accumulating for God knows how many years to accumulate so many pearls." Lu Renkuang pointed at the two pearl divers at the front and said, "Look, they're the two we followed." Han Fei and the others naturally noticed them. The two of them were now hanging from the ceiling of the cave, suspended by something that looked like spider silk. Around them were blue-silver pupae that were moving towards the two of them. Han Fei said casually, "Their spiritual energy has completely dissipated. They're already dead." Luo Xiaobai said, "It seems that the Sea of Pearls is more dangerous than we thought. Let's keep moving forward." Han Fei nodded and glanced at Lu Renkuang. Fat people are meaty. Insects like them. Lu Renkuang rolled his eyes at Han Fei and panicked. He wasn't scared of fighting, but he was scared of the horrifying scenes. It looked beautiful, but when you saw thousands of corpses hanging on the ceiling, you wouldn't find it beautiful anymore. You would only feel creeped out. The four of them walked for about 10 kilometers before they finally passed the passage where the corpses were hanging. Zhang Xuanyu was relieved. It's quite stressful to have so many people hanging above our heads all the time. Han Fei said with a casual smile, now, there's even greater pressure. Luo Xiaobai said, prepare for battle. The insects are coming. Around the cave, a large area of blue and silver cocoons began to crack. Droplets of blue liquid dripped out of the pupae. Chilla. When the blue water dripped in midair, it suddenly turned into a bluish-purple flame. Wasn't it exactly the purple fire in the Sea of Pearls? Lu Renkuang shrieked, are they insects or flames? Han Fei was also thinking. He didn't see any information about the purple fire when he saw it earlier. At this moment, Han Fei said, I'll take a look. Don't move. Luo Xiaobai said, be careful. Han Fei grinned. Can a few flames and a few insects really turn the world upside down? Han Fei strode forward quickly, and seawater floated up from the ground and followed Han Fei. Han Fei used the metamorphosis water and turned it into palm-sized daggers. More and more of them appeared, and in the end, they were densely packed behind him. Whenever he sensed something wrong, he would sweep away the purple fire first. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. That you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.